starting from Douluo, shocking all the worlds. Hey! Look who's back for more adventures. We love having you here to continue this story that keeps us all awake. Important note, all of this is pure fiction. So don't try any techniques you hear here in real life, your neighbor might call the cops. This amazing novel and all its rights belong to the original author. We're just the ones giving it voice and drama. Are you enjoying the show? Prove it by subscribing to our YouTube channel and leaving that like that motivates us so much. And if you want VIP access to exclusive content, our Patreon is waiting with things you won't find anywhere else. Period. Chapter 151 The Wuhan Temple was taken over? At this moment, the two figures that suddenly came in from the outside were none other than Douluo Chengxin and Gurong, the two major titles of the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School, who came back after a month's absence. The cruel words just now were also spoken by Gurong. But just as Tang Ge released all the spirit and soul ring in one breath, their attention was immediately attracted. A 12-year-old soul king? 5 10,000-year spirit rings, or the man brought back by that girl Rongrong? When they heard Tang Ge's confident words again, the two of them suddenly showed shock on their faces. From which hidden sect did such a monstrous little genius come from? And even ran to my 7 Treasure Glazed Tile sect to be my son-in-law? Originally, Chen Zin and Gurong, who were very angry because their little one was abducted, looked at each other, and a common thought suddenly came to their minds. Be sure to keep this little guy. Just when the two were secretly shocked by Tang Ge's strength, Ning Fengzi not far away twitched slightly. He once again witnessed Tang Ge's epic thick skin. How pushy it must be to release a martial soul and soul ring right after seeing someone coming in and not knowing the identity of the other party. Grandpa Gu, Grandpa Jian, look at me. Look at me. After Ning Rongrong came back to her senses, she realized that Tang Ge was stealing the limelight from her, so she shouted anxiously. While shouting, she urged the 9 treasure glazed pagoda, which had transformed into 9 colored luster, into the air, spinning rapidly. At this moment, colorful rays of light suddenly appeared in the pitch-black light that originally filled the entire hall. Seeing that girl Ning Rongrong looked so anxious, Tang Ge couldn't help laughing secretly. Anyway, his goal just now has been achieved, and the next step is another way to gather wool, and he simply put away the martial soul and soul ring directly. The attention of Chen Zin and Gurong was attracted by Ning Rongrong's voice. Then again, as if they had seen a ghost, they couldn't help rubbing their eyes wildly. But the 9-colored light that caught his eyes would never disappear no matter what. Rongrong, her martial soul has evolved to the 9 treasures glazed tower? The two were filled with disbelief. Chen Zin even walked up to Ning Rongrong quickly, and checked the other party's body with her soul power. Gurong's urging voice came from behind. How is it? Is Rongrong okay? Not only is it okay, but it's also very good. This girl went out for a trip, and her spirit power has actually been raised to level. And more importantly, I finally saw the rumored 9 treasures glazed tile pagoda. Chen Zin withdrew her hand, looked at the little girl in front of her, and said with burning eyes. He understood that the appearance of the 9 treasures glazed tile pagoda would herald that the 7 treasures glazed tile school would most likely appear in the future with a title Douluo, who would raise the 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda to the 9 rings. Once it is done, the entire continent will probably be shaken. The status of the 7 treasures glazed tile pagoda will also be greatly improved. For a moment, Chen Zin looked at Ning Rongrong, and couldn't help saying gently, "Girl, tell Grandpa what's going on. This is actually all thanks to Tang Ge." Ning Rongrong said in his heart that he was very happy, but also embarrassed. Tang Ge? Could it be this little guy? Hearing Ning Rongrong's words, Chen Zin couldn't help looking at Tang Ge, who was smiling not far away. But at this time Ning Fengzi took the initiative to step forward and said, "Let me explain the reason for this." Immediately, he talked about everything that happened during this period, including Tang Ge's experience of repelling the skull and taking out the sky-mending pill. In order to make this explanation more vivid, Tang Ge also used the Tai Chi sword formation in conjunction with it. As soon as the sword array came out, the scene of thousands of swords firing together really shocked the two titled Douluo's hearts. This is definitely an extremely powerful level existence among the 10,000 years of soul skills. Even Chen Zin, who possesses the martial spirit 7 killing sword, said that he would not be Tang Ge's opponent at the same level. In this way, Tang Ge easily received another, shock points from these two titled Douluo. He even wanted Ning Fengzi to gather all the disciples of the 7 treasure glazed tile school together, and then show off the charm of the 5 all-black 10,000-year spirit rings. But Tang Ge finally held back this thought. Wait till the end. After knowing all the experiences, whether it is Chenzin or Gu Rong, they no longer have the unpleasant feeling of being snatched away because of the little girl at the beginning. Instead, they began to think of ways to tie Tang Ge and Kibaoliulazong together. Once the opponent grows up to become a titled Douluo, plus the assistance of Rongrong Girl's 9 treasures glazed tower. It's hard for the two of them to imagine, with such an excellent and powerful combination, who would dare to touch the 7 treasure glazed tile school in the future? So Chenzin didn't even look at Ning Fengzi's uncomfortable expression like he had eaten shit, and just laughed and said, "Boy Tang Ge, the old man can tell at a glance that you and my Rongrong are a match made in heaven, so any bets are not a problem. As long as you marry Rongrong in the future, the 7 treasure glazed tile school will definitely be yours. And if you need help in the future, just mention it, the old man and I will do everything to help you. Old Chen is right, we will be a family from now on. If we don't talk about each other, don't be polite to us. I think you are not too young, why don't you just get things done today?" Gurong was even more exaggerated, directly planning to help Tang Ge and Ning Rongrong get married today. As soon as these words came out, let alone Tang Ge was taken aback, even Ning Fengzi couldn't stand up and quickly spoke. "Uncle Gu. Uncle Jian. This girl Rongrong is still young, we will talk about this kind of thing later. And the main energy of the two of them is cultivation, right Tang Ge?" "Well, Sect Master Ning is right. Cultivation is important. Cultivation is important." Hearing Ning Fengzi's words, Tang Ge cooperated. On the other hand, Ning Rongrong's eyes showed a slight sense of loss. This girl was actually moved. It's so scary. Afterwards, the two titled Douluo also seemed to realize that they had acted too hastily, and immediately stopped mentioning this matter. Ning Fengzi couldn't help but heaved a sigh of relief. Then he took the initiative to change the subject and asked, "Uncle Chen, Uncle Gu, why did you go out for so long this time? Did something happen to the Imperial City?" As soon as these words came out, the lively atmosphere suddenly became a little dull. In the end, Gu Rong sighed and said, "Originally we should have returned half a month ago, but then a very difficult thing happened. There was news that the spirit halls in several cities under the jurisdiction of the Heaven Dao Empire were taken over overnight. When someone found out, there wasn't a single soul master alive in these spirit halls." End of this chapter. Chapter 152. How dare someone dare to strike at Wuhan Highness, and it's the kind of person who is even in the pot. After hearing the news that Gu Rong brought back, Moshuo Ning Fengzi was taken aback, even Tang Ge was extremely surprised. To say that this Douluo continent has many forces, the upper 3 sects, the lower 4 sects and the 2 great empires all have their own title Douluo sitting in command. But to count the most powerful, only the Wuhan Hall that can open branch halls to various cities. And in the Wuhan Hall, there is also a Douluo Hall. Even if the 2 great empires are always on guard against the engulfment of Wuhandian. But now, in the territory of the Heaven Dao Empire, someone actually attacked Wuhan Highness. For such an important event, the first thought that popped up in Tang Ge's mind was, war is about to start. Ning Fengzi also thought of this point, and immediately said with a solemn face, "Do you need to make preparations?" Gu Rong understood what Ning Fengzi meant. However, he shook his head and said, "Fortunately, it is only the lowest branch of the Wuhan temple that was destroyed, so the loss to the Wuhan palace is not big, and it is not yet confirmed who did it, so it is not yet the Wuhan palace. The Hall of Souls launched the war directly. It's just that this incident happened in the territory of the Heaven Dao Empire after all. The empire cannot absolve itself of the blame. If they want to appease the anger of the Spirit Hall, there will probably be a hemorrhage." Beside, Sword Douluo Changsan followed and said, "It is precisely because of this incident that we stayed in the Imperial City and accompanied the Emperor to meet the mission sent by the Wuhan Palace. As for the specific details of the negotiations, the two of us do not belong to the Imperial family after all, so we don't know." After hearing what Gu Rong and Chenzin said, Ning Fengzi finally breathed a sigh of relief. What he is most afraid of now is the development between the 2 major forces. Once a fight broke out, the 7 treasure glazed tile sect who stood on the side of the Heaven Dao Empire would definitely be drawn into the flames of war. Ning Fengzi is not afraid of fighting, but now Rongrong has managed to evolve his martial soul to the 9 treasures glazed tower. What he wants most at the moment is to continue to maintain peace and strive to give Rongrong a chance to grow up. If Tang Ge was on the side to protect him, Ning Fengzi would have nothing to worry about. Thinking of this, he directly said to Ning Rongrong, "Rongrong, since your soul power has reached level, you should stay at home for now. We strive to find a suitable soul ring in the fastest world, so that your strength can be raised to level 31. Fengzi is right, girl, you'd better stay at home now." Chen Xin followed and nodded. Then he looked at Tang Ge again and asked, "Little guy, what about you?" "I'll forget it, my soul power won't improve much for a while, so let's go back to the academy first." Tang Ge smiled and shook his head. When Ning Rongrong heard this, she became anxious and couldn't help but said, "I also want to go back with Tang Ge, and my third soul ring can be found by teachers and principals for me." "How strong is your teacher and dean?" Gurong asked. Ning Rongrong replied with some guilt, "Soul sage, nonsense. It's just a soul sage, they can help you find a suitable soul ring. Aren't we two titled Douluo not as good as a soul sage? Don't talk about it, you girl sneaked out before, but this time you must stay in the sect." The first time Gurong got angry, Ning Rongrong was so frightened that he dared not make a sound. Tears started to roll in his eyes. Seeing this, Tang Ge stood up helplessly. He first comforted Ning Rongrong not to worry. The two seniors asked her to stay for her own good, and said that she could return to the academy after her soul power was raised to the level of soul venerable. And now there is still 1 month before going to the Heaven Dao Imperial City. This month is enough to find and fuse the soul ring. Coupled with Chen Xin and Gurong's nodding in agreement, Ning Rongrong broke through his tears and smiled, no longer resisting the things left behind. At the end, Tang Ge seemed to think of something, and immediately spoke to Gurong and Chen Xin. "Seniors, if you want to help Rongrong find a third soul ring, it's best to favor the soul power recovery type, which will be better for assisting soul masters, because in the original plot, Ning Rongrong's third soul skill was a recovery soul skill. That's why Tang Ge suddenly said that. But Chen Xin and Gurong are both titled Douluo, they just understood the benefits of doing this after thinking about it, so they all agreed. Next, because there was nothing else to do for the time being, the two old guys, Chen Xin and Gurong, suddenly became curious about Tang Ge's identity. Tang Ge didn't hide anything, and directly revealed that he was from the Holy Soul Village, and there was a grandfather of an ordinary person in his 70s. This is true. But the two titled Douluo didn't believe it at all. "May I ask which child from the countryside not only raised his soul power to the Soul King at such a young age without anyone to rely on, but also directly obtained 5,000-year soul rings?" Be a liar. Therefore, Chen Xin and Gurong were sure that Tang Ge definitely came from a big family, and even reminded them of a certain person. But because of Tang Ge's martial soul, the two of them only had doubts. Faced with this situation, Tang Ge was also speechless. These days, no one will believe the truth. What a beep. Afterwards, Ning Rongrong took the initiative to talk about the situation of Shrek Academy. Chen Xin and Gurong were immediately relieved when they learned that Shrek Academy's teachers and several academies were all monster-level talents. There are so few monster-level genius students, which shows that this academy is still somewhat capable. So the two planned to go to Shrek Academy together after helping Rongrong find the third soul ring. In this way, before I knew it, another 3 days passed. During these 3 days, Tang Ge was completely pestered by Ning Rongrong to play around. It wasn't until the two titled Douluo took her out to find the soul beast that Tang Ge finally managed to escape from the sea of suffering. The entrance of the 7 treasure glazed tile sect. Seeing Tang Ge going further and further away, Ning Rongrong couldn't help crying and shouting, "Tang Ge, I will definitely find you soon." It took Tang Ge so long because Ning Rongrong dragged him to Kibao City. But leaving Kibao City, he was the only one left. With no one slowing down the speed, Tang Ge rushed back to Soto City in just 1 day. And it was just getting dark. Walking in the bustling city of Soto, Tang Ge was really dazzled by seeing the snow-white long legs swaying frequently in front of his eyes. That girl Ning Rongrong is too young, she hasn't grown up yet, she really can't compare with these big girls who have grown up. Tisk tisk. Do you want to have another wonderful encounter here tonight? Tang Ge smiled secretly, and couldn't help but began to look for someone who was destined to him in this vast crowd. But he had just glanced a few times when a familiar figure suddenly came into view. The cat has long hair, a turbulent figure, and a cold temperament hides a charm that makes people want to take a closer look. It was Zhu Zhuking who hadn't seen each other for a month. End of this chapter. Period. Chapter 153 Promise Your Youth Forever. Tang Ge did not expect to see Zhu Zhuking at this time, but the other party seemed to be in a bad mood. Walking alone on the streets of Suochuo City, he seemed very lonely. And because she was walking with her head half down, she didn't notice a fat man standing in front of her at all, so she ran straight into him without hiding. But the fat man couldn't help squinting his small eyes in excitement, and as his body trembled, the fat on his body kept shaking up and down. He didn't dodge, just waited for Zhu Zhuking to bump into him, his eyes glowing hotly. It would be fine if Tang Ge wasn't here. But now he happened to see this scene, his originally gentle face suddenly turned cold, and he rushed over. Then the wretched fat man only felt a pain in his stomach, and he bowed his waist and flew out backwards. In mid-air, he saw that seductive body fall into another man's arms. What? Immediately, the fat man let out a miserable scream, and with a plop, his butt just hit the mouth of a garbage can in the distance, and he couldn't get out for a long time. More than 10 meters away. When Zhu Zhuking, who was absent-minded, felt himself falling into an embrace, he also reacted with a sudden shock. As soon as she felt cold, she wanted to use her martial soul, but suddenly a familiar laughter came from beside her ear. What? You haven't seen me for a month, so you don't know me anymore. After Zhu Zhuking's tense body trembled suddenly, he immediately relaxed. She raised her head and looked at the handsome face in front of her that had already occupied her heart. She couldn't suppress her emotions any longer, so she stood on her tiptoes and leaned forward. Kiss me. The two lips met, and the warm and soft feeling immediately rushed to the heart. Tang Ge didn't hesitate, and regardless of the envious and jealous eyes around him, he tightly hugged Zhu Zhuking's arms, and began to kiss heartily. After a while, the two separated. Looking at Tang Ge who was staring straight at him, Zhu Zhuking's cold face flushed suddenly, and he couldn't help but whispered. Did you go to her house with Wang Grong? Why did you come back at this time? If I go, I can't come back? Don't you want to see me? Come on, say yes. Tang Ge lifted Zhu Zhuking's chin with his hand, and said domineeringly. Facing Tang Ge's dominance, Zhu Zhuking hummed obediently like a gentle kitten at this moment. I would. Ha, let's go. There are too many people here. I will take you to a good place. After speaking, Tang Ge, who was in a great mood, directly hugged Zhu Zhuking by the waist, and left here with his head held high. Only a group of onlookers were left looking at the ocean and sighing, envious and jealous. Is this the good place you want to bring me? 10 minutes later, standing at the door of a hotel, Zhu Zhuking looked at Tang Ge with a blushing face. For some reason, she suddenly regretted letting Tang Ge bring her here. If this is seen by the students who go out, I am afraid that I will be laughed at and. But without waiting for Zhu Zhuking to think about it, Tang Ge grabbed her little hand and walked directly into the hotel, speaking at the same time. What a great place, we can talk all night without being disturbed. Just like that, Zhu Zhuking was dragged into the hotel by Tang Ge in a daze, and got another room. The two were in the same room and spent another night in a daze. It wasn't until the next morning, when she fully woke up, and looked at the man in front of her who was the first man in her life to sleep on the same bed with her, that she realized that everything she experienced last night was not a dream. Thinking back to what the other party did to her last night, Zhu Zhuking's pretty face turned red. But immediately she felt a little lost again. But Tang Ge said that she was too young. But I am not small at all. At some point, Tang Ge opened his eyes. Seeing Zhu Zhuking's behavior, he immediately laughed and teased, Hey, where are you looking? No. I didn't look anywhere. Zhu Zhuking was startled, and after recovering, he quickly pulled up the quilt to cover his little head. But soon, the quilt was pulled away by Tang Ge again. Seeing Zhu Zhuking's frightened look, Tang Ge shook his head and said with a smile, Don't worry, nothing will happen to you. Now that I'm awake, I happen to have something for you. What? Hearing Tang Ge's words, Zhu Zhuking breathed a sigh of relief, and then asked curiously. Tang Ge didn't answer, but asked rhetorically, If one day in the future I am still as handsome as now, but you are no longer young and become a gray-haired old woman, just like the snake woman I saw before, what do you want? What would you think? Become an old woman, like a snake woman? Tang Ge's words made Zhu Zhuking involuntarily see himself getting old. This made her face unbearably frightened, and her body shivered. Then Zhu Zhuking bit her thin lips and said resolutely, If my youth is gone that day, I will leave you far away, and then die silently in a place where no one knows. Very nice. Hearing Zhu Zhuking's words, Tang Ge couldn't help but reply. Then Zhu Zhuking's eyes widened immediately, staring at Tang Ge with disbelief. You just said, that's really nice, ding dong. Congratulations to the host, you shocked Zhu Zhuking and gained, shock points. Oh, can this also get the shock value? Tang Ge was surprised. But looking at Zhu Zhuking, who was about to go berserk, he hurriedly said, what are you thinking about? I mean, it's good to have you. And today I'm going to tell you that with me, you'll never have a chance to grow old. As he said that, two things suddenly appeared in Tang Ge's hands. One of them is a spirit stone that exudes aura, and the other one is an elixir full of strange fragrance. Tang Ge first chuckled, and stuffed the lingxi directly into Zhu Zhuking's arms. This is a spar called lingxi. When you hold it and meditate, it will increase your soul power cultivation speed. It felt as if some gas had invaded his body, which made the circulation of his soul power a little faster. Zhu Zhuking nodded with a blushing face, and then looked at the elixir in Tang's singer. Then this is a elixir called the Gain Pill. As long as you take it, you will remain young forever and will not grow old, Tang Ge said with a smile. A elixir for eternal youth? Zhu Zhuking's beautiful eyes lit up immediately, and she wanted to take the elixir from Tang's singer. But Tang Ge suddenly put it away again, under the puzzled eyes of the other party, said, this elixir is for you. But now you are too young to take it. It will be the best time to take it when your body opens up in a few years. Having said that, Tang Ge paused for a moment, wanting to wait for the system prompt to appear. End of this chapter. Period. Chapter 154. Let's go. Heaven Dao Royal Academy. Take out the Dangayan pill. As long as any woman hears its efficacy, she will be shocked. After all, being able to stay young forever is a dream that women have been pursuing. Although Zhu Zhuking is still young, he probably cannot escape the law of true fragrance. So after Tang Ge said this, he waited for the system prompt to sound in his mind. But after waiting for a while, there was no sound. Tang Ge couldn't help but looked at Zhu Zhuking immediately, and said doubtfully, aren't you shocked that I can produce this rare medicine? I know you can do what others can't. Zhu Zhuking shook his head. This is a compliment to Tang Ge, and other people would like to hear it very much, but why does Tang Ge sound so unpleasant at the moment? Is it worth a shock of, ? Isn't it delicious? For a moment, Tang Ge's face was full of depression. Seeing Tang Ge's disappointed look, Zhu Zhuking thought he had said something wrong, and suddenly became anxious. She whispered, is such a precious pill reserved for Sister Yuchen? Or, I don't want it. When Tang Ge heard it, he couldn't help crying and laughing. He stretched out his fingers and tapped the other person's forehead, and said with a smile, what are you thinking about? This pill is for you, and it is the only one in the world. So after a few more years, don't forget to remind me, otherwise, if you lose this elixir, there will be no more. In addition, the spirit stone I just gave you is also very precious. Don't tell anyone except you. Where are Sister Yuchen and Rong? Just you and I know, but you must remember, well, I will keep it a secret. Finally, under Tang Ge's emphasis, Zhu Zhuking nodded earnestly while feeling warm in his heart. Because it was late, Zhu Zhuking also came out all night. In order not to let Tang San and Xiao Wu find out, she laid down for a while and then urged Tang Ge to get up. The two tidied up, had breakfast at the restaurant on the second floor of the hotel, and left together. But when he came out of the hotel lobby, Tang Ge felt extremely proud when he saw the waitresses at the front desk with expressions of surprise and regret on their faces snort. Last time it was you girls who were gossiping and saying that my time was short. Did you see it now? But this time it took a full night. How about it? Regret it? Want to fuck me? Beautiful. Goodbye. Never come to this place again. After secretly washing away the shame of being ridiculed last time, Tang Ge immediately put his arms around Zhu Zhuking's slender waist, and walked out of the hall swaggeringly. In the end, only a handsome figure out of reach was left to those waitresses. In the morning, when Tang Ge and Zhu Zhuking returned to Shrek Academy, they realized that apart from Tang San, who stayed in the blacksmith shop all day to make things, the others either went out to play or went out to practice. Lin Yuchen also went to the Star Dao forest to cultivate with the help of its unique natural environment. Because she practiced a meditation method of the elves of the forest, it is better to practice in an environment close to nature. Tang Ge naturally knew this, so it was not surprising. Fortunately, Lin Yuchen was accompanied by Xiao Wu, and Tang Ge was not worried about her safety then. For the next month, Tang Ge didn't go anywhere, and just stayed in the academy and began to practice. After all, his Wuhan had just been promoted from the yin-yang life and death map to the mountains, rivers, and lands map, and with the appearance of the mountains and rivers domain, the way of fighting suddenly changed a lot. So taking advantage of this time, Tang Ge immediately sorted out the new abilities he had mastered. However, he hasn't told anyone about his breakthrough to the Soul King, and he plans to find a suitable opportunity to tell it, so that he can take the opportunity to increase his shock value. As for Zhu Ziuqing, who came back with him, after getting the Spirit Stone, apart from going to the Great Soul Arena to practice his fighting skills occasionally, he spent the rest of his time practicing. In this way, a month passed without knowing it. And 2 months have passed since the Shrek 9 monsters finished the second stage of training. Today is the last day of the 2-month training period. Before noon, all the Shrek Academy students who had gone out came back from outside and gathered in the big playground. Tang Ge, who had finished training, was also among them. Whether it was Daimyu Bei, Xiao Wu, Lin Yuchen or the others, they all surrounded Tang Ge, asking Tang Ge about his experience in going to the 7 Treasure Glazed Tile School. There are 2 girls who like him here, so it is naturally impossible for Tang Ge to talk about the things between him and Ning Rongrong, and he just talked about it in a regular manner. But to Tang Ge's surprise, Jin Ringsu, who had promised to stay in Shrek Academy, suddenly left a month ago. According to Daimyu Bei, the other party seems to have something to do. Let him tell Tang Ge that there will be a chance to meet in the future. When Tang Ge heard it, and then thought of the news he had learned from the 2 titled Douluo when he was in the Kibao Glazed Tile School, he guessed that Jin Ringsu should be the representative of the emissary sent by Wu Hundian. For a moment, he couldn't help regretting that he couldn't continue to have a deeper communication with the other party. Just as he was thinking, a figure walked over from a distance. Seeing the person coming, Xiao Wu greeted him immediately with a happy face. Third brother, it was Tang San, who had been in the blacksmith shop for nearly 2 months, who appeared. When he and Xiao Wu walked over, everyone immediately saw the weird item in his hand. Third brother, what is this? Oscar couldn't help but ask. Sensing everyone's curious gazes, Tang San couldn't help smiling, and said, I call it the Flying Claw. Then, in front of everyone, he covered up the function of the Flying God Claw. Daimyu Bei and the others were all very interested when they saw the Flying God Claw leading Tang San across a distance of tens of meters and instantly appearing on a big tree in the distance. Fortunately, Tang San had already created enough Flying God Claws, so after the demonstration, he prepared one for each of them. Since Ning Rongrong didn't come back, Tang Ge temporarily kept her share. It happened to be noon at this time, so Tang Ge and his group of 8 were called by Flender to the college cafeteria again. All the current teachers of the academy were also here, and had their last lunch at Shrek Academy with the students. Before I knew it, another day passed quietly. In the early morning of the next day, everyone gathered at the gate of the academy. Finally, he turned his head and took a look at the place where he had lived and taught for decades. Flender suppressed the reluctance in his heart and announced immediately, Let's go. Heavendao Imperial Academy. After the words fell, before Yu Ziagang could react, he had already displayed the martial spirit owl, grabbed the opponent and flew into the air and flew towards the distance. When can I have my own flying soul skills? Seeing this scene, Mo Hongjin couldn't help showing envy on his face. Asked for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Period. Chapter 155. We are different, no the same. As one of the 2 great empires, the Heavendao Empire has many kingdoms and small countries in its jurisdiction, and the Barak Kingdom is just one of them. To the north of it is the Kingdom of Sylvester. Therefore, if the Shrek Academy group wants to reach the Heavendao Royal Academy, they must first leave the Barak Kingdom, then go north and cross the entire territory of the Sylvester Kingdom. At this time they were considered to have arrived at the Imperial City Circle of the Heavendao Empire. And the Imperial City where the Xiandao Imperial Academy is located is just to the east of the Empire. From the starting point to the ending point it takes a journey of more than 2,000 kilometers. Because Tang Ge accompanied Ning Rongrong to Kibao City, he knew that the journey was so long that he couldn't get there in a day. Moreover, he understood that Flender made the students go on their way with all their strength. On the surface, it was to train the students, but in fact, it was another stingy character. Because if you arrive at the place 1 day earlier, you can eat 1 less meal and 1 less hotel stay. How many gold coins can be born in this way? It's a pity that except for Tang Ge, whether it was Tang San or Ma Hongjin, They didn't know, they ate Oscar's flying sausage at the beginning, and after taking off happily, they chased after Dean Flender in front. So in the end, Oscar was the first to fall to the ground because his soul power was exhausted and began to run on foot. Immediately afterwards, others also fell down. Come on. I am optimistic about you, Tang Ge stayed in midair with his yin-yang wings alone. While flying slowly in front, he turned his head and smiled and encouraged. Tang San and the others who were running on the ground gritted their teeth angrily when they heard Tang Ge's embarrassing words. But these people had no choice but to keep their heads down and chase desperately. After a while, almost exhausted from running on the ground, only Tang San, Daimyu Bei, Oscar and Ma Hongjin were left, and Xiao Wu ran onto Tang San's back. In the sky, there were two more beauties, Lin Yuchen and Zhu Zhuking, in Tang Ge's arms. Farther ahead in midair, when he looked back and saw the scene of Tang Ge flying with the two little beauties in his arms, Flender, who had a smug expression on his face, glanced at Yu Xiaogang who was flying beside him, and felt extremely tired. Now he suddenly has an urge to let this old guy go directly. After all, others can take two little beauties with him by flying, so why should my majestic soul sage fly with an old man? How unfair. Yu Xiaogang was mobilizing his soul power to resist the gust of wind blowing continuously from midair. When he inadvertently noticed Flender's unfriendly gaze, his heart suddenly jumped. His complexion changed, and he couldn't help saying, Flender, although I don't know what you're thinking, I advise you to be kind. If you dare to throw me down, I'll haunt you like a ghost. Get out. If you want to pester me, you will have to be haunted by a female ghost. Are you still not on the line? Flender cursed disgustingly. Immediately, he didn't dare to think any more, and continued to fly forward with the other party. And Zhao Wuji and other Shrek Academy teachers at the back also saw Tang Ge flying in the sky with two female classmates. The Hundi teacher who was in charge of the college's recruitment college couldn't help but sigh with emotion. Nowadays, children can really play every one of them, which is much more interesting than ours back then. Among students like Tang San and the others, Tang Ge is the thick-skinned kid who loses, but I just like this kid, Zhao Wuji said. When the other teachers heard this, they all smiled knowingly. Then these teachers also speeded up to catch up. In this way, a day passed without knowing it. Hurrying in this way, the Shrek 9 devils were so tired that they almost fell down from exhaustion, as if they had gone through another first stage of devil training. Although tiring, the effect is remarkable. In just one day, they covered a distance of about, kilometers, completing 1/5 of the journey. Moreover, Flender has buckled a little, but he hasn't lost his mind yet. So after confirming that it was impossible to persist for too long with the state of the students, he directly chose a small town to live in. The small town is very simple, almost the size of a village, and there is only one dilapidated hotel. And in this dilapidated hotel, Flender only had 3 rooms. One is reserved for the teacher, one for the male students and one for the female students. But Daimyu Bei, Oscar and the others were almost exhausted. They didn't have the mood to pick and choose. They couldn't help but threw themselves on the bed as soon as the room opened. I really didn't expect that one day, I would find that the bed is more comfortable than a woman's. Lying on the bed, Ma Hongjin sighed in a bewildered way. Hearing Ma Hongjin's words, Daimyu Bei and Oscar nodded in agreement, both lying on the bed with intoxicated expressions on their faces. Although Tang San was tired, he hadn't reached this level. He couldn't help laughing and said, since you're tired, let's all rest quickly. Who knows if Ardeen will come again tomorrow, but at this moment, the door was suddenly pushed open a little, and a small hut came in from the outside. It was Xiao Wu. She looked at Tang San and said, Little San, come out for a while. Although Tang San was puzzled, he still agreed and walked out of the room. After coming out and closing the door, he asked, What's the matter, Xiao Wu? After driving for a day, my legs are sore. Brother, can you rub my legs? Xiao Wu blushed and said a little bit awkwardly. Tang San was speechless when he heard Xiao Wu's request. It seems that the other party has spent a whole day on his back, so how could it be possible to rush so hard that your legs are sore? If you want to be sore, you have to be sore in your legs, right? But Tang San didn't refuse, but pampered Xiao Wu's hair, and said with a smile, It's right here. Well, right here. Zhuking and Sister Yuchen should all be asleep. Xiao Wu nodded. Tang San didn't hesitate, stretched out his hand to pick up Xiao Wu's lazy waist, jumped up from upstairs, and then directly landed on a big tree a few meters away. It's still more convenient here, After gently laying Xiao Wu flat on the tree trunk behind him, Tang San said with a smile while taking off the other party's little pink leather shoes. But when he inadvertently looked up at the roof of the hotel opposite, the original smile on his face froze. I don't know when. On the edge of the roof of the hotel opposite, there were already 3 figures. Tang Ge and Lin Yuchen and Zhu Xiuqing, who should have fallen asleep. And now Tang Ge is sitting between the 2 girls, happily enjoying the shoulder squeezing and back beating services of the 2 girls. Seemingly aware of Tang San's gaze, Tang Ge, who was squinting and pretending to sleep, suddenly opened his eyes, waved to Tang San, and greeted him silently. "Hi. Little San, good evening." Seeing Tang Ge's hand wave, Tang San didn't respond, but suddenly recalled in his mind that strange song that the other party often sang in front of him when he was a child: "We are different, different, different." Tang San didn't quite understand it at first, but now he finally understands that he and Tang Ge are really different. Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Period. Chapter 156. Sorry, I'm already the Soul King. Sure enough, there is no harm in anything without comparison. Tang San, who was called out by Xiao Wu to pinch his legs, was in a good mood at first, but when he saw that the opposite roof was enjoying a completely different treatment from his own, his heart twitched suddenly. Is this the gap between people? What's the matter, third brother? Seeing something wrong with Tang San's expression, Xiao Wu couldn't help worrying and said, "Brother, if you're not feeling well, we'd better stop pinching." "I am fine." Tang San forced himself to laugh, and tried not to pay attention to Tang Ge and the other 3 on the roof over there, and began to use the power of Zuanshan Kung Fu to help Xiao Wu familiarize himself with the meridians and blood vessels on his legs. It's just that the scene tonight can't be better. On the opposite roof, Zhu Xiuqing seemed to have noticed Tang Ge's movements, and Zhu Xiuqing couldn't help but whispered, "Tang Ge, I suddenly found out that you are good or bad, then do you like my badness?" Tang Ge asked back with a smile. When Zhu Xiuqing heard this, he became silent again. On the contrary, Lin Yuchen, who was holding Tang Ge's shoulders behind her, blushed, bit her thin lips and said shyly, I like Tang Ge. This girl is too sincere." Immediately after the 3 of them had enjoyed it again, Tang Ge got up and hugged Zhu Xiuqing and Lin Yuchen from left to right, and jumped down from the roof. After sending the second daughter back to the room, Tang Ge also returned to the room where Oscar and the others lived together. The 3 of them left. Tang San, who had been under great pressure, finally breathed a sigh of relief, with a sincere smile on his face. What follows is the real 2-person world between him and Xiao Wu. The next day, it was just dawn. The people of Shrek Academy, who had rested overnight in the hotel in the small town, started on their way again at this time. They had all left Barak Kingdom and entered the territory of Sylvester Kingdom. Fortunately, this day Flender didn't let Tang San and the others go all out, but headed towards the Heaven Dao dynasty at a normal speed. In this way, when it was just dark in the evening, everyone arrived at Sylph City, the capital of the Sylph's Kingdom. Then Flender was even more generous for an unprecedented time, directly finding a high-end hotel to arrange everyone. "Everyone is tired after 2 days of driving, so I will rest here tonight. I will treat you to this meal." Everyone eats and drinks deliciously. However, each of the little monsters is only allowed to drink 1 glass of wine. Sitting at the dining table, Flender raised his wine glass and laughed. But instead of being praised, his enthusiastic performance aroused everyone's suspicion. Daimube whispered even more secretly, "This smile is too scary. In my opinion, the dean must have bad intentions in doing this. Just wait, something bad will happen after the meal." Hearing Daimube's words, Tang San and Oscar felt the same way. Usually, he was used to Dean Flender's serious look, but tonight he suddenly changed his temper, and paid so generously to stay in a noble hotel. It's not that the brain is broken, it's that there is no conspiracy, as predicted. When everyone had just finished eating, Flender suddenly put down the wine glass in his hand, and looked at the Shrek 9 monsters with a gentle face. Under everyone's terrified eyes, he smiled and said, "Why are you looking at me with such eyes? Flender, won't eat you. I just want to say that the 9 of you haven't engaged in actual combat for 2 months, and there happens to be a big soul fighting arena in Sylph City, so you should go and do some activities tonight. In addition, considering the fact that you have to travel tomorrow, you only need to participate in the team battle this time. Hearing Flender's words, Daimube immediately showed complacent expressions to his friends. Check it out, I guessed right. Then he said directly, Dean, let's talk in advance. After we win the team battle, none of the gold soul coin rewards we get will be handed over to the academy. Daimube, who do you think I am, the dean? Since the academy is gone, would I do such despicable things to squeeze the students? Flender feigned anger meeting, you will. Everyone present thought to themselves. Among them, Ma Hongjin, who knew Flender, seemed to have thought of something, and suddenly said, then, Dean, are you going to take advantage of this last chance to make a secret bet again? As soon as these words came out, everyone suddenly realized. It turns out that the dean had this idea. But Flender, who had been punctured, stood up angrily, rolled up his sleeves and yelled at Ma Hongjin, you brat, your skin is itchy, don't you? Come here, let me see if I teach you a lesson. Hey, Dean, come and chase me. Ma Hongjin smiled triumphantly, quickly escaped from his position, and quickly ran towards the outside of the hotel. Immediately afterwards, a burst of laughter came from the hotel. Night. Outside the Sylph's Great Soul Arena, which was even more magnificent than the Soto Great Soul Arena, the Shrek 9 monsters, who had put on their masks again, appeared here together with Flender and Uzaya Gang. Follow Flender's plan. He originally wanted to use the invincible lineup of the Shrek 9 Monster Soul Master level Golden Soul Fighter who excluded Tang Ge to win a team battle in the Sylph's Great Soul Fighting Arena. But what Flender didn't expect was that the staff over there directly rejected him as soon as he spoke. Sorry, I'm afraid you won't be able to participate in tonight's team battle Spirit. Why? Is there no one in the Sylvester Spirit Arena? When Flender heard this, he became anxious immediately. He was counting on this opportunity to make a fortune. If you can't participate, wouldn't it be a waste of the money you spent before? Faced with Flender's arrogant questioning, the staff members were not angry, but explained gently. I'm sorry, Master Soul Master, we really don't have a, level Golden Spirit fighting team in the Sylph's Great Soul fighting field that can conduct fair soul fighting. It was so. After listening to the staff's words, the anxious Flender couldn't help but suddenly realized. Then he breathed a sigh of relief, and while smiling, he pulled Tang Ge from behind, and said, since there are no, level 1s, then, level 1s are fine. See, this is the substitute in our team, a soul master of the soul sect level. If you let him play, you should be able to challenge the 40th level Golden Spirit fighting team, but, you don't even have a Golden Fighting Spirit team of this level here, do you? 40 level soul sect as a substitute? This team called Shrek 9 Monsters is too weird. Hearing Flender's words, the staff looked weird. But they still nodded. There are few Golden Soul fighting teams at the Soul Sect level. Are you sure you want to challenge? Nonsense. Such a good opportunity to make money, of course I am sure. Flender thought to himself. But before he could agree, Tang Ge, who had just been pulled over, suddenly smiled and said, Dean, I'm really sorry, I'm afraid I won't be able to play. Why? Flender looked confused. After the others heard it, they also looked at Tang Ge with doubts and curiosity. Under the watchful eyes of so many people, Tang Ge felt that the time was ripe, and immediately stopped hiding, and said word by word, because I am already the Soul King, ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Chapter 157 Losing on the Cliff? Already the Soul King? When Tang Ge said that sentence word by word, Tang San and Daimube who were present were first startled, and then they couldn't help gasping. Even Uzaya Gang's eyes widened. Looking at Tang Ge was like looking at a non-human being. As for Flender, who was closest to Tang Ge, his body shook again and again, and he stepped back several steps in succession, covering his heart that was about to be shattered with his hands, panting continuously. Let me take it easy. Let me take it easy. After a while, he felt much more comfortable. Then when he looked at Tang Ge again, Flender had a complicated expression and said, Tang Ge, you didn't lie to me. Are you really the Soul King? Do you want to release the spirit ring here? Listening to the system prompts that kept ringing in his mind, Tang Ge said quite proudly. And anyway, he has the mountain and river domain. He can change the color of the soul ring at will, so he doesn't have to worry about his 5 black soul ring being discovered by others. But Flender didn't know. Thinking of the opponent's astonishing purple and 3 black soul rings, he immediately shook his head. No need, we'll talk about it when we return to the hotel after the team competition, Soul King. a 12-year-old soul king, and 2 months ago, he seemed to be only a soul sect. What a little monster. But at the same time as he was shocked, Flender's heart was suddenly filled with anticipation. With Tang Ge's cultivation speed, if there are no accidents, he absolutely believes that the other party can become a titled Douluo before the age of 30. And at that time, he will also be the teacher of titled Douluo. Shrek Academy will also be brilliant again on the mainland. Thinking of this, Flender was very grateful that he was lucky enough to keep this little guy Tang Ge in the academy, otherwise he would regret it to death. It's just that the only thing that makes him depressed is, it was agreed at the beginning to cover all the soul rings of the opponent's soul sage before, but it seems that I have not played a little role until now. I really feel like a failure. On the opposite side, because Tang Ge was wearing a mask, the staff couldn't tell his age. Naturally, he was only surprised by the strength of the Soul King, and he was not as shocked as Flender and Yu Gang. Looking at Flender, who was devastated, the staff member smiled slightly and said, "If that's the case, then you only have one way to leapfrog the challenge. Okay, it's okay to challenge by leapfrogging. Bring out the information of the Golden Soul Fighting Team at the Soul Clan level in your big soul fighting field." Hearing what the staff said, Yu Gang from behind suddenly stepped forward and said. The staff immediately smiled and handed the information to Yu Gang. Then Yu Gang looked at the information, and learned about the situation of the Soul Sect level Golden Soul Fighting Team from the staff, and finally selected one. The name of this team is impressively called the Fierce God Team. Flender, who was originally unwilling to allow the students to leapfrog the challenge, suddenly opened his mouth in dissatisfaction when he learned of the vicious behavior of the Vicious God Team in the past. Gang, what do you mean by that? Don't you know what kind of temperament that Fierce God Team is? If you do this, what if something happens to the children? No, I don't agree. But Yu Gang ignored Flender's objection, glanced at the group of students present, and said calmly, all those who agree raise their hands. Tang San and the others hesitated for a moment, but still raised their hands one after another. If Tang Ge did not participate, he automatically chose to abstain. Seeing this scene, Yu Gang nodded. Since that's the case, it's settled, and because of different reasons, I will allow you to use Xiaozin's hidden weapons in this team battle. As for the reason for letting you do this, I will tell you later. Then he looked at the staff again. Help us arrange it, okay, wait, the staff agreed, and registered the information, and quickly completed the formalities for the Shrek 9 monsters. And because they are the Golden Soul Fighting Team, the Great Soul Fighting Field specially prepared a private quiet room for them to rest before the start of the soul fighting match. Until this moment, Yu had just stated his purpose of doing this. It was nothing more than to exercise Shrek Academy's state of mind by taking advantage of the bad behavior of the Fierce God Team. Regarding this, Tang San and the others suddenly realized. Then they took advantage of this opportunity and began to discuss with each other how to face the, level Fierce God Team. But Tang Ge and Flender were not on the lounge. Outside, on the way to the gambling area. Flender frowned and complained, what's the matter with this Gang? Since he knows the murderous nature of the Vicious God Team, why did he let Xiaozin and the others challenge him? If I knew this earlier, I wouldn't be greedy for such a cheap price and come to this big soul fighting arena. Speaking of this, he felt very regretful in his heart. Tang Ge, who followed beside him, couldn't help but smiled, and said, Dean, have you forgotten what the master said just now? He allowed Xiaosan and the others to use hidden weapons. Especially Xiaozin's hidden weapon called Zhuge Divine Crossbow can kill even a 1,000-year-old man-faced demon spider. If you use this hidden weapon unexpectedly after playing, it won't be a problem to instantly kill the Fierce God Team, so I still believe that Tang San and the others can win. Really? Little Tang Ge, you didn't lie to me. Hearing Tang Ge's words, Flender's eyes lit up, and he was filled with anticipation. Tang Ge nodded. Of course, otherwise, you can go back and ask the master yourself. And he actually has another deep meaning in doing this, but you didn't think of it for a while. Deep meaning? After Flender calmed down and thought for a while, he understood the meaning of Tang Ge's last sentence. He couldn't help shaking his head and said with emotion, sure enough, this guy's Gang still thinks more than I do, but I always feel that it's too early to do this. Forget it, no matter what, the name has been reported, and it can be regarded as a done deal, so it's useless to think about it. Hey. But since I can win, then I have to take advantage of this opportunity to make a good fortune. Finally, Flender's voice changed, and his face that was originally full of sorrow suddenly became excited. He urged Tang Ge to speed up and walk towards the gambling spot in front. After waiting for the place, without further ado, Flender directly said to the staff, "I'll buy, gold soul coins, Shrek 9 monsters, 30,000 gold soul coins?" "Are you sure?" Hearing Flender's words, the staff was taken aback and couldn't help but speak. But before Flender could answer, a flat voice suddenly came from behind. "It's only, gold soul coins. I'll buy, gold soul coins, and the Shrek 9 monsters will fight." Hiss. Where did these rich kids come from? Could it be that they have lost their minds? Not to mention the shock of the staff at this moment, even the crowd gasped when they knew the information about the Shrek 9 monsters and their chosen opponent. The Shrek 9 monsters are on the verge of losing. Then when these people looked at the person coming, their eyes were full of sympathy. Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Chapter 158. Who is the fool? Flender originally thought that he would be very powerful if he could take out, gold soul coins, but seeing Tang Ge walking over, he opened his mouth and asked for, gold soul coins. His eyes widened immediately, and he couldn't help but said, why do you have more money than me?" Tang Ge was intoxicated by the system prompts that sounded in his mind one after another. When he heard Flender's words, he immediately rolled his eyes. "Dean, is it a problem that I have more money than you?" "Of course there is a problem, I'm the dean." Flender was unwilling. Tang Ge frowned, and couldn't help showing a weird smile on his face, saying, "In this way, the dean admits that you have been taking advantage of your position to embezzle our college. You can shut up." As a result, before Tang Ge could finish speaking, Flender was so frightened that his forehead was sweating, and he quickly covered the boy's mouth with his hand. With so many people around, if they heard it all, where would I put my face? But even if Tang Ge didn't say it, it was because both Flender and Tang Ge took out tens of thousands of gold soul coins to beat the Shrek 9 monsters to victory, which caused the crowd to look at them as if they were fools. After all, the materials of the Shrek 9 monsters and the Fierce God team are stored there. The Soul Sovereign level challenges the Soul Ancestor level? What is it but a fool who can do such a thing? Even the staff couldn't bear it, and reminded, "Are you too sure you want to buy the Shrek 9 monsters?" "Of course I'm sure, isn't it? But, you can." Under Flender's dissatisfied gaze, the staff couldn't help swallowing a mouthful of spit. "You must know that even with the, golden soul coins in the entire Sylph's Great Soul Arena, there are very few things that can bet so much at one time. What's more, there were 2 people when they appeared last night. It's just that the staff didn't know that the, gold soul coins Flender took out included all the private money of the Shrek 9 monsters, the master and other teachers. That's why Flender was shocked that Tang Ge could take out, gold soul coins by himself. Not only that, just after the staff swiped their cards for Flender and Tang Ge to complete the betting procedures, a person ran over panting. While taking out a card and handing it to the staff, he hurriedly said, 10,000 gold soul coins, beat the Shrek 9 monsters." The staff member trembled after hearing this, and almost dropped the card he had just received on the ground. He looked at the middle-aged man who suddenly ran over in front of him with disbelief, opened his mouth to say something, but still didn't say it. In the end, the staff helped the middle-aged man who had just arrived to go through the formalities honestly. On the other hand, Flender couldn't help being curious, and asked the middle-aged man, "This man, you see that the Shrek 9 monsters and the vicious gods are so different in strength, how can they still beat the Shrek 9 monsters?" "Hey, you don't know that, I'm a businessman." Hearing Flender's question, the middle-aged man looked smug, and lowered his voice to explain the reason. And the crowd watching all around couldn't help pricking up their ears, wanting to get a glimpse of what's going on, and then choose a suitable bet candidate. After all 3 of them came here all of a sudden and spent so much money to beat the 9 Shrek monsters. Is there anything special about the 9 Shrek monsters? It's a pity that after Tang Ge noticed it, he sneered in his heart, and suddenly interrupted the middle-aged man's words. He said indifferently, "It's just 50,000 gold soul coins, young master. I have plenty of money, even if the Shrek 9 monsters lose, so what? I just don't want to buy the Fierce God team." Hearing Tang Ge's words, Flender was taken aback for a moment, and then realized the surrounding situation immediately. He followed proudly and said, "HMPH, what is the Fierce God team? I am the leader of the Shrek 9 monsters. Should I let my own people not support to support others? Even if the, Gold soul coins are gone, so what? It is my style to lose without losing power. After speaking, Flender walked directly into the distance. Tang Ge also followed. The middle-aged man who stayed where he was confused for a while, then suddenly realized, and then made a look of extreme remorse. He looked at the staff, and said in a tangled manner, "You, see if you can, give me back the 10,000 gold soul coins I just pressed. I regret it, sorry, but if you press it, you can't return it." At this moment, the staff felt as if they had turned themselves into slaves and became their masters. They immediately raised their eyebrows and even their tone became tough. The middle-aged man felt dizzy after hearing this, and then thought of the culprit of all this, crying and chasing after Tang Ge and Flender who had just left. "Damn it, pay me back my hard-earned money." Looking at the back of the middle-aged man leaving, the constantly beating fat buttocks made the staff feel weird, as if they were screaming. But soon he dispelled this thought, shook his head and sighed softly. Impulse is the devil. After the people watching around reacted, they couldn't help but sneered. Cut. At first I thought there was something tricky about the 9 Shrek monsters, but it turned out to be nothing. Fortunately, I held back and didn't put money on this team just now. Look, the businessman thought he was smarter than us, but he was not deceived in the end. He was really clever but was mistaken by cleverness. Come. Don't hesitate, suppress the fierce god team. I bet 100 gold soul coins. I bet 1,000 gold soul coins. Unconsciously. As a large number of people put the golden soul coins into the side of the fierce god team, the odds on the side of the Shrek 9 monsters, which had been lowered because of Tang Ge and the 3 of them, quickly rose again. In the end, even the staff in charge of betting couldn't bear the temptation of such high odds, and secretly put all their private money on the fierce team. His mind was full of fantasies of the vicious team winning, and the scene of piles of golden soul coins piling up in front of his eyes. That scene was simply wonderful. Going to the pinnacle of life and marrying by Fumerie is just around the corner. All of a sudden, when looking at several very beautiful girls in front of him, the staff member even felt an impulse in his heart resign immediately. Then he went up and said to the girl, "Beauty, do you want a date?" As for the 3 big fools who just left, it was a waste of the, gold soul coins, but it was also thanks to them that he had the opportunity to earn a lot of money. But what the staff member didn't know was that when the middle-aged man he thought regretted caught up with Tang Ge and Flender, he had long since lost his previous miserable appearance. The 3 were chatting and laughing, and they were still talking about the topic of a group of fools who can't see the situation and make random bets. So, who is the fool? Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Chapter 159 Killing the Fierce God Team in an Instant. In the team battle rest area, by the time Tang Ge and Flender came in from the outside, Tang San and the others had already arranged tactics to deal with the fierce god team. Uzia Gang was also preparing to leave with him. Seeing Flender coming back from outside with a smug smile on his face, he couldn't help but wonder, what benefit did you get to be so happy? Hey, you guys are going to post this time. Hearing Uzia Gang's inquiry, Flender recounted what happened before in a good mood. In the end, he patted Tang Ge on the shoulder and said, "Fortunately, I asked Tang Ge to accompany me this time, otherwise I would have lost a lot of money in the end." Uzia Gang was speechless for a while. He really didn't expect Tang Ge, besides being rich, to be so bad. After those words were spoken, many people might go bankrupt tonight. Of course, Uzia Gang didn't have any sympathy for these people. After all, the decision is made by oneself, and the result can't be blamed on others no matter what. Daimyo Bei, who just came back to his senses, couldn't help but said, "Dean, why are you so sure that we will win the fierce god team? Anyway, it's not my money alone. If you really lose, everyone will drink the northwest wind together." Flender didn't care. Daimyo Bei, he felt like he was talking nonsense. Even Tang San, Oscar and the others laughed wryly, secretly regretting that they knew this earlier, and directly demanded their share of the money. Fortunately, Uzia Gang said in time, "Okay, the time is up. I will send you to the arena first." Immediately he walked out of the room. Seeing this, the others got up and followed. When they arrived at the entrance of the soul fighting team on the side of the main fighting field, although Uzia Gang was the team leader, he couldn't follow in because he didn't have an invitation from the big fighting field. So he stopped directly, and finally explained to Tang San and the others, "I have shown you the information before, and the members of the fierce god team are all brutal people, so you don't have to hold back this time. It is best to be able to deal with the opponent as quickly as possible. If not, Once you realize that you are not the opponent, don't hesitate to jump off the fighting spirit platform immediately. I'd rather you throw in the towel than see any of you get hurt. Hearing Yu Xiaogang's concern, everyone felt warm in their hearts. Tang San nodded heavily. Teacher, don't worry, we will definitely win. Well, let's go. Flender waved his hand. Not far away, Tang Ge couldn't help curling his lips when he heard the conversation between Flender and Tang San, muttering inwardly. It's all nonsense. At this time, the staff had already come. Tang Sanqi and the others no longer hesitated, and followed the staff directly to the main fighting spirit platform inside. But Flender and Yu Xiaogang immediately left here and went straight to the surrounding audience stands. Maybe it's because of the notorious Fierce God team participating in this team battle, and the strongest of the Shrek 9 monsters side is only the Soul Master. Therefore, the host of this game not only changed to a young man, but also flew into the air immediately after announcing the entry of the two sides of the game. Not a moment. One team from the left and one from the right came up from the fighting spirit stage. They were the Fierce God team and the Shrek 9 monsters. As soon as they entered the stage, the 7 members of the Fierce God team exuded a bloodthirsty aura that had been slaughtered for a long time, and rushed towards the Shrek 9 monsters. Sensing the bloody aura coming towards them, as well as the ferocious smiles and blood-red eyes of the 7 Fierce team members opposite, Zhu Xiuqing, Oscar and the others immediately turned pale. Although they have also participated in team battles in the past, they were almost always on point, but the team in front of them is a brutal thug with blood on their hands. Even the strongest Yue Bei couldn't help but tense his body, and began to get nervous. Among them, only Tang San was calm, unaffected by murderous aura. It seemed that most of the audience sitting in the auditorium had bet their money on the vicious God team, and they were here just for excitement. So they didn't care at all how many people died or how many people were disabled in the hands of the Fierce God team. As soon as they saw the opening scene, the Shrek 9 monsters were so frightened that they trembled all over, and they couldn't help but let out excited roars. Great team, good job. I put all my wealth on you, you must give me a good fight. Ha ha ha, what Shrek 9 monsters dare to challenge the vicious God team with such little strength? It's simply courting death. Hurry up, don't waste your time, tear them apart. Hearing the excited roars of a large number of spectators in the auditorium, Meng Li, the captain of the Fierce God team, glanced at Tang Sanqi and the others, and immediately smiled ferociously. If you want to blame your own bad luck. With a team composed of 7 attacking Soul Masters, and all of them are Soul Masters, it is too easy to bully a team that is the strongest and only Soul Masters. But facing Meng Li's bloodthirsty words, Tang San was not moved, just reminded in a low voice. Everyone is ready. Hearing Tang San's reminder, Yue Bei, Oscar, Mo Hongjin and the others reacted, and then quickly took out a box about 1 foot long. These boxes are the Godly's huge crossbows. As soon as they were taken out, the 9 Shrek monsters held them all in their hands, and quietly aimed the Godly's huge crossbow at the Fierce God team. At this time, the host who had already flown into the air suddenly gave a loud shout. Team Fighting Spirit, Shrek 9 Monsters Team, leapfrog to challenge the Fierce God team. The soul fighting begins, tear them apart. As soon as the host's voice came out, Meng Li, who had already waited impatiently, let out a roar. Immediately with him as the center, the other 6 members of the vicious God team on the left and right released their martial souls together with him, and rushed towards the 9 Shrek monsters like a humanoid bear. The entire soul fighting platform was shaken with rumbling sounds. But the moment the 7 members of the Fierce God team rushed out, Tang San standing opposite gave an order, let go, and the 7 members of the Shrek 9 monsters immediately activated the mechanism of the Godly's huge crossbow. Accompanied by the clanging sound of metal colliding, the activated huge Godly crossbow instantly spit out the 120 bolts stored in it like a raging lion. These 120 crossbow arrows pierced the air like a dark cloud covering the top, enveloping the 7 members of the Fierce God team rushing over in an instant. Immediately afterwards, there were bursts of shrill screams that pierced the eardrums. When the light from the high ceiling came down and shone on the soul fighting stage, what all the audience saw was the bodies of the 7 members of the Fierce God team who had become riddled with holes. In the end, fountains of blood gushed out from the bodies of the 7 people, and they all fell to the ground with a plop. Blood mist shrouded. The shrill screams that echoed on the fighting spirit stage could not be subdued for a long time. End of this chapter. Chapter 160. The exit is blocked. Before the opening, Tang San formulated a practical and effective tactics against the enemy, that is to use the godly's huge crossbow to carry out blitzkrieg. After all, the 7 members of the Fierce God team are all composed of explosive attack-type soul masters, and they are all soul sect cultivators. If they are given a chance to attack, the chance of the Shrek 9 monsters winning is very small. It's just that although Daimyo Bei and the others believed that Tang San's godly's huge crossbow was very powerful, they didn't think they could end the battle quickly. Result. It turned out to be a spike. Looking at the 7 members of the Fierce God team who were instantly pierced by this huge godly crossbow's arrows and fell down like a sieve, the 6 Daimyo Bei were all stunned. Even Tang San didn't expect the scene before him, couldn't help but twitch violently. The lights at the top of the arena shone on the soul fighting stage, reflecting the 7 sieve-like corpses of the vicious god team, with blood continuously swimming out of the holes like thin snakes. In the blink of an eye, a large area of the fighting spirit stage was dyed red. With a strong smell of blood rushing towards their faces, Zhu Huqing, Lin Yujin, Oscar and Daimyo Bei, who had never seen such a scene before, immediately turned pale, turned around and ran towards the entrance of the fighting spirit stage. The sound of vomiting could be faintly heard from over there. Tang San was afraid that something might happen to a few people, so he hurriedly said to Xiao Wu and Daimyo Bei, "Go and see them first, I'll just stay here alone." At this moment, with the annihilation of all 7 members of the Fierce God team, the result is a foregone conclusion. So upon hearing Tang San's arrangement, Xiao Wu and Daimyo Bei nodded and followed them down the soul fighting stage. It wasn't until after the people left that Tang San, who was still on the spot, raised his head, looked at the host who was in a daze in midair, and said with a faint smile, "Can we announce the result of the competition?" The host just woke up like a dream. Recalling the scene that happened just now, he couldn't help but wipe the cold sweat from his brow, and announced in a hoarse trembling voice, "Tuan. Regiment Fighting Soul. Shrek 9 monsters win." After getting the answer he wanted, Tang San didn't stay any longer, turned and left the soul fighting stage directly. At this time, the audience in the auditorium all around finally came to their senses. But they didn't cheer for the victory of the Shrek 9 monsters. Instead, they looked at the corpses lying on the fighting spirit stage. Their pale complexions became more and more distorted. Finally, someone couldn't bear the anger any longer, and suddenly roared out, "Thomas Vicious Team, I'm a fool." As soon as the roar came out, it was like a fuse, completely igniting the anger in the hearts of a large number of audience present. Boom, 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 boom. Accompanied by the sound of something being thrown, roars of anger, despair and sorrow resounded throughout the soul fighting stage. Liars. All are liars, fuck you. The leader of the 9 Shrek monsters, they pretended to be tender even though they are so strong, and made me spend all my money on the Fierce God team. They did it on purpose. Garbage Fierce God team. I have so much money, it's all my hard-earned money, it's just gone. Woo woo woo, my 3,000 gold soul coins. The scammers of the Shrek 9 monsters were all caused by you. Return my gold soul coins, otherwise I will never end with you today. Let's go. Let's go to the betting area to stop them. Today we must let those 3 big liars spit out all the money they cheated on us. The change in the auditorium really caught the host, who had just announced the end of the game, by surprise, and the cold sweat that had been falling down broke out again. No. This is no longer something I can solve. Looking at the venue that was about to be demolished by the audience, the host dared not stay any longer, and hurriedly left to report to the higher-ups. As for Zhu Huqing and the others who were vomiting after stepping off the stage, they ran away from the entrance in a panic. They didn't even dare to go to the rest area. After leaving the Great Soul Arena quickly, they quickly took off their masks and hurried towards the hotel where they were resting. As soon as the people left, the densely packed audience rushed in one by one, occupying the entrance of the passage in an instant. It's just that they didn't notice that there were still 5 people left in the left auditorium, bending over and carefully hiding behind the chairs. The 4 of them slowly sat up straight again until there was no more audience left. One of them was the businessman from Soto City. He bought, gold soul coins to win the Shrek 9 monsters before, but now he doesn't have any excitement about winning. What should I do? What should I do? If those people see me, I'm afraid they will tear me to pieces. The businessman's face was pale at the moment, and he kept talking to himself, with fear and regret in his eyes. So much so that he didn't even notice Tang Ge, Flender and Yu Xiagang, who stayed here with him. And the 3 of them took this opportunity to lower their footsteps and quietly walk towards the exit, not daring to stay for a moment after leaving the team battle area, and went straight to the outside of the fighting spirit arena. On the way, Yu Zhigang stared at Flender with an ugly face. "I didn't participate in this matter, why did you pull me down just now, Zhigang? Haven't you heard? Those people are all heading straight for you, the leader of the Shrek 9 monsters. If they catch you, you will lose your skin tonight." Saving you. Since Flender had Tang Ge as a student, he didn't learn anything else, so his face was thicker. Facing Yu Zhigang's questioning at this moment, he said without blushing. After hearing this, Yu Zhigang was so angry that he almost wanted to kill Flender. What kind of shit is this? It's obvious that this guy did the hurtful thing, but in the end he was the one to blame. He couldn't help snorting. "No matter what, this incident was caused by you, so I want at least half of the gold soul coins from the bet." "One half? Yu Zhigang, you are crazy." Hearing Yu Zhigang's request, Flender, who was still proud just now, widened his eyes and exclaimed directly. But before his exclamation fell, Tang Ge, who had been paying attention to the surrounding situation, suddenly stopped, and said with a smile, "Teachers, I think I should score, %. Why?" Flender, whose exclamation was interrupted, couldn't help but replied. Then when he turned his head to look at Tang Ge, his eyes just glanced at the exit of the Great Soul Arena in front of him, and he immediately saw dense figures. At this moment, there are hundreds of people blocking the exit of the fighting field. These people were all the spectators who had just rushed out from the fighting spirit area of the Shrek 9 monsters and the Fierce God team. When they heard the conversation between Flender and Yu Zhao just now, the eyes of the audience who went bankrupt because of the failed bet instantly turned red. There is only one thought left in their minds: to tear these three liars apart. End of this chapter. Chapter 161. As far as the eye can see, no one can stand. Hiss. When he saw the hundreds of old audience friends staring at him with red eyes at the exit, Flender couldn't help taking a breath. Did these people all run to the betting area? How would it appear here? He turned his head slightly, looked at Yu Zhigang at the side, and whispered in an expectant tone, "Zhigang, they probably didn't hear our conversation just now, did they? Did you hear that you don't have a point in your heart?" Yu Zhigang couldn't help but twitched violently, and suddenly regretted coming out with Flender. However, he didn't lose his composure. After trying to keep himself calm, he looked at the hundreds of temporary enemies blocking the door, and spoke lightly. "The betting decisions are all made by you yourself, and no one is forcing you, now that you lose, but blame others. Don't you think it's too much? And this is the Sylvester Soul Arena? Are you sure you want to fight here? Damn. Just ask the four-eyed monster next to you, if he didn't join forces with a kid next to him and another person to deceive us, would we be fooled? That's right, if you hadn't misled us, maybe we would have defeated the Shrek 9 monsters directly. Now it's good, we all lost and went bankrupt, and it's all your fault. Yes, it's all your fault. You big liars, pay us, or you won't be able to get out of this door today, liars. The Shrek 9 monsters are all liars." It was fine if Yu Zhigang didn't say anything, but as soon as he spoke, the red-eyed gamblers immediately cursed. But it was obvious that they didn't dare to directly rush into the Great Soul Arena to make trouble. Soon, with the bursts of cursing, pedestrians passing by on the road outside surrounded them one by one, and began to be melon-eating crowds. Although it is not clear what happened in it, but listening to the abuse of more than 100 people blocking the entrance and exit of the big fighting field, the passers-by onlookers still understood a little. Then these people also one-sidedly thought that the 9 Shrek monsters had deceived people, and their impression of the 9 Shrek monsters suddenly became bad. In the hall, as more and more people were attracted, Flender, who was still thinking of calming things down, suddenly became ugly. He is a majestic soul sage, not only was called a four-eyed monster by others, but even the Shrek 9 monsters became a big liar. How can this shame continue to endure? Flender stopped Yu Zhigang from continuing, and said coldly, "These arrogant and unreasonable people, there is no need to reason with them, just use your fists to solve the problem. Dean, you go to withdraw the money, let me handle it here." Tang Ge also smiled. Naturally, he wouldn't just let go of such a rare opportunity to gather wool. Flender frowned, looked at Tang Ge, a stinky boy who even started to call him, and asked suspiciously, "Are you okay? As a man, you can never say no." After speaking, Tang Ge walked towards the exit of the hall with confidence on his face. Flender glanced at the hundreds of people blocking the door. Although there were soul masters among them, None of them were powerful characters. He believed that with Tang Ge Hunwang's cultivation, it would be no problem to clean up this pile of rubbish. It's just that when he thought about Tang Ge Hun King's cultivation, Flender suddenly became envious and jealous. He felt that it might not be long before this kid's strength would surpass him. What was even more uncomfortable was that the other party had more money than himself. Could it be that I have lived in vain all these years? After secretly feeling depressed for a while, Flender said to Uzia Gang, "Stay here and watch, I'll go back as soon as I go." "Well, let's go," Uzia Gang nodded. After Flender left, his attention was shifted to the exit of the hall again front. As Tang Ge walked towards the exit of the hall step by step, Bai Lei Hao, who had scolded fiercely, felt an inexplicable chill in his heart, and backed away involuntarily. Until Tang Ge completely walked out of the hall, and there were onlookers blocking the road behind, the 100 or so people had no choice but to stop. What do you want to do?" Someone couldn't help trembling. When Tang Ge heard it, he couldn't help laughing. "What do I want to do? I should be the one to ask you this question. If we don't let us go, who gave you the courage?" Huh? At this point, his originally smiling face suddenly turned cold, and two invisible flashes of lightning shot out of his eyes. Thump. Under the horrified gazes of others, the ordinary man who had just talked to Tang Ge suddenly fell to the ground and twitched as if he had suffered a stroke. What did you do to him? I tell you, I'm not afraid of you." A great soul master who was close felt Tang Ge's eyes fell on him, and immediately took a few steps back in fright. He involuntarily summoned his martial soul, and said sternly. Tang Ge frowned and smiled. "It seems that you gave him courage." After the words fell, Tang Ge was not seen what to do, but the great soul master in front of him rolled his eyes and fell to the ground as if he had committed lamb madness. And after the great soul master fell, the bad luck didn't stop there. Tang Ge's eyes seemed to have magical powers, and all the soul masters present who had been watched by him fell to the ground one by one like the two before. As far as the eye can see, no one can stand. After such a terrifying scene brought the remaining besiegers back to their senses, they immediately collapsed completely. "This man is a devil, run away," somebody yelled, and the remaining besiegers all turned around to disperse one by one, fleeing faster than rabbits. As for the desperation of going bankrupt because of betting, it is nothing in the face of life-threatening. Is it bad to live it? In the blink of an eye, there were not even 1 in 10 of the hundreds of people who had surrounded the entrance of the Great Soul Arena. The rest are also those unlucky bastards who twitched and twitched after falling to the ground. As the scolding disappeared, the surroundings gradually became quieter. The pedestrians who had been watching involuntarily lowered their breathing, their faces full of shock. They looked at the lonely figure, as if they were looking at a monster, and their minds were full of the strange scene that happened just now. "Have you seen enough?" It wasn't until the cold voice came that the onlookers woke up like a dream. As soon as Tang Ge, who was staring at everyone, looked towards him again, there were exclamations. Immediately afterwards, the onlookers also scattered in fright. Even the other people who were coming over thought that something terrible had happened, and hid away. Seeing this scene, the coldness on Tang Ge's face receded, and his gentle laughter resumed. In his mind, system prompts began to ring continuously. Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Chapter 162 Encounter Again, Xiandao Royal Academy. In addition to the people blocking the door, there were also passers-by who were eating melons. There were 200 people in total. Although, % of them were not soul masters, they still brought Tang Ge a shock value of nearly, If you add Uzia Gang's, shock points, Tang Ge's total shock value has once again reached, points. As long as there are, more shock points, he can continue to do 10 consecutive draws. Thinking of this, Tang Ge was very satisfied with coming to the Sylvester Soul Arena this time. Back, in the hall, Flender, who had just left to get the money, finally returned. When he saw Tang Ge standing outside the door and a dozen people lying on the ground, his originally smiling face suddenly became puzzled. Aren't those people desperate to find us because they went bankrupt? Why did they all run away so quickly, desperately? No matter how hard you try, you will really die. Uzia Gang, who came back to his senses, couldn't help rolling his eyes when he heard Flender's question. Then he recounted what happened just now. After hearing this, Flender was not shocked at all, and said with a natural expression, "Otherwise, why would I entrust him with such an important matter?" So Uzia Gang, You should learn to keep calm in the future. Don't always be surprised when Tang Ge makes a big move. Could it be that one day he accidentally stared title Douluo to death? Wouldn't you be scared to death? Uzia Gang, in the face of Flender's preaching, he was completely speechless. Fortunately, Tang Ge, who was standing outside, didn't pay attention here, otherwise he would be so angry after hearing the conversation between the two. If he is not shocked anymore, where's he going to get the shock value? Let's go. Xiaozhen and the others must have gone back to the hotel. These children have just experienced that kind of thing, and they don't know what's going on now. Uzia Gang couldn't help but urged. Immediately, he and Flender left the Great Soul Arena, and after meeting Tang Ge, he walked directly towards the hotel where he was staying as predicted. When the three returned to the hotel, except for Tang San, Dai Mubei and Xiao Wu, everyone else was still suffering. Especially the two girls, Lin Yuchen and Zhu Xiuqing, couldn't help but vomit every time they thought of the scene of the 7 fierce god team members being shot into sieves and gushing blood on the fighting spirit stage. In the end, they were so disgusted that they couldn't even stand up, and their faces were as pale as if they had suffered a serious illness. Oscar and Ma Hongjin didn't feel much better, they just laid dead on the bed without moving. Seeing this scene, Uzia Gang, who originally wanted to take this opportunity to preach, had no choice but to give up. After letting Tang Ge stay to take care of Lin Yuchen and Zhu Xiuqing, he and Flender left. Dai Mubei, who followed to leave, opened his mouth to say something, but in the end he still couldn't say it. His face was full of disappointment. Soon, the night passed. It was around noon the next day that Zhu Xiuqing and Oscar had almost recovered. So after eating, the group of Shrek Academy left the hotel again and walked towards the east direction of Heavendao Imperial City. And in order to take care of Zhu Xiuqing and the others, Flender rarely slowed down his speed. Uzia Gang also finally had the opportunity to start conveying the concept of natural selection. Survival of the fittest to Tang San and the others about the soul fighting match that happened last night. To sum it up simply, we must not be merciful to our enemies, we must be ruthless. Even in the end, Tang Ge lay innocently on the gun, and Uzia Gang used his example of killing people last night without blinking an eye as a preaching material. Although it was a good teaching material for Tang Sanqi to learn from him, but Tang Ge always sounded awkward. When did he become a murderous executioner? But okay. Seeing the two girls, Lin Yuchen and Zhu Xiuqing, gradually recovering their rosy pretty faces after listening to the story of her murder without blinking an eye, Tang Ge didn't care about Uzia Gang's talking about him, but, as if thinking of something interesting, Tang Ge glanced at Uzia Gang and Flender, and couldn't help showing a strange smile on his face. He really began to look forward to it more and more. Before I knew it, another 2 days passed. The people of Shrek Academy finally entered the circle of influence of the Heavendao Imperial City after a hard journey. But the sad result is that, after walking according to the guidance of the map, they didn't know where to go next. The front should obviously be the location of the Royal Academy marked on the map, but in reality, there is a big mountain blocking Flender and his party. Everyone is a bumpkin from the countryside. You asked me and I ask you, and you don't know anything, and you all look embarrassed. Xiao Gang, it was you who suggested us to come to Shyandao Royal Academy, but now you are holding a map and telling us that you don't know where to go next? Do you think this is plausible? Flender immediately shifted the responsibility to Uzia Gang, speaking righteously. Uzia Gang snorted, you are still the soul saint of the four-eyed owl, now you have the face to blame me. Immediately, he looked at Zhao Wuji, who was pretending to be transparent not far away, and said, Mr. Zhao, don't you know the way if you don't move King Ming, except for the road to Shyandao Royal Academy? I know all the other roads, Zhao Wuji said without changing his face. Anyway, he felt that as long as he wasn't embarrassed, it was others who were embarrassed. Everyone, not far away, Tang Ge listened to the conversations of these teachers, and felt that it was too inferior for them not to talk about crosstalk. Thinking about it, he was going to tell these teachers and classmates the specific location of Shyandao Royal Academy. But at this moment, a shout of surprise suddenly came from the front. Tang Ge, teacher. Here, why don't you come here? When everyone looked in the direction of the voice, they immediately saw Ning Rongrong wearing a long blue dress. This girl actually came here one step earlier. Seeing Ning Rongrong's appearance, everyone was very surprised. Xiao Wu, Zhu Xiuqing, Lin Yuchen and the others ran over impatiently. As soon as the four girls got together, they began to chatter about their experiences in the past 2 months. Occasionally, There were exclamations from time to time. It wasn't until Flender and Tang Ge came over that the four girls blushed and became quiet in embarrassment. Looking at Ning Rongrong, Flender smiled and said, "Girl, aren't you practicing at home? Why did you come here suddenly?" "Hee hee, I haven't forgotten to go to Xiandao Academy to report, so I'm waiting here for you, teacher." Ning Rongrong stuck out her tongue and said, "Happily waiting for us here?" Flender and Yu Xiaogang looked at each other, as if thinking of something. Their eyes fell on the high mountain ahead at the same time. "Girl, do you mean that the Xiandao Imperial Academy is in this mountain?" Flender asked more tentatively. Ning Rongrong nodded strangely, and said, "That's right. Not only is the Heavendao Imperial Academy in this mountain, but the entire mountain belongs to them. Don't you, teachers, know? Ask for a monthly pass." End of this chapter. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 163 Zubang, your brother is still alive. Well, it is true that we are ignorant. After listening to Ning Rongrong's words, the teachers present were speechless for a while, and even pretended to be watching a bird poop shit to cover up their embarrassment. Among them, Flender said with a calm expression, "Isn't it built in the mountains? Of course we know." "No, if it didn't feel like you girl was coming, we would have gone in earlier. How could we still stay here?" "Xiaogang, am I right?" "Yes. You are right," Yu Xiaogang said with a twitch. Then he was afraid that something would happen again, so he hurriedly urged again. "Okay, don't stand here anymore. Since we have already waited for Rongrong, let's go in." After finishing speaking, Yu Xiaogang walked towards the mountain ahead with his hands behind his back. Have to say, in terms of pretending coercion, the master pretends to be the most natural. Zhao Wuji and others who knew about it couldn't help but secretly gave Yu Xiaogang a thumbs up. Immediately, they quickly chased after Tang San and the others. After questioning on the way, everyone also knew about Ning Rongrong's return to the sect for cultivation. This girl has not only obtained the third soul ring, but her cultivation has also broken through from a great soul master to soul master, reaching level 33. More importantly, her Wuhan 7 Treasures Glazed Pagoda has suddenly evolved into 9 Treasures Glazed Pagoda, and the title Douluo is expected. Among them, Bushin Pill played an absolute role. Otherwise, Ning Rongrong's soul power would not be directly raised from level 27 to level 33. The improvement of these 6 soul power levels cannot be achieved by a 1,000-year soul ring. However, because of Tang Ge's explanation in advance, Ning Rongrong did not tell about the Bushin Pill, but found another reason to tell everyone. But even so, after learning the news, everyone was shocked, and felt sincere joy for Ning Rongrong. As the head of the academy, Flender was even more excited. If Tang Ge and Tang San were added, wouldn't at least 3 of the students he trained would become titled Douluo? This imaginary result almost made Flender's proud tail go up to the sky. Fortunately, he finally arrived at his destination, so he had no choice but to restrain his excitement. In the distance, a group of buildings is located in a mountain cove that has been dug through. The ground is paved with jade, dragons and phoenixes are carved, and stone pillars reach the sky. There is a majestic and rich atmosphere everywhere. This is the Royal Academy of Heavendao Empire. Near mountains and rivers, the environment is beautiful, and it also has its own mimetic cultivation environment. "This place is not bad," Flender praised solemnly. Everyone was about to say something, but when his voice changed, he suddenly shook his head again. "Unfortunately, it still can't compare with my Shrek Academy." "Dean, who gave you the confidence to say such a thing?" "Tang Ge?" Hearing Dean Flender's words, Tang San and other students were very speechless. Then they couldn't help looking at Tang Ge. Tang Ge was taken aback for a moment, and then said angrily, "Look what I'm doing, it's not what I taught him to say." Paralysis. "I'm pissed off." Just at this time, with a sound of footsteps, 10 figures came out from the academy in front. These 10 people are all about 18 or 19 years old, wearing light yellow uniforms. They are obviously students of Xiandao Imperial Academy. When they saw Flender and his party, they were taken aback for a moment, and then shouted, "Stop! Who are you?" "We are from Shrek Academy. At the invitation of your academy teacher, come to the Royal Academy for exchange and study." "Let's lead the way," Flender said indifferently. As a result, as soon as he finished speaking, the students of the Royal Academy in front of him couldn't help showing sarcasm smiles. One of the youths said disdainfully, "Where did the country bumpkins who ran out have the qualifications to come to our Shyandao Royal Academy for exchange and study? I still advise you, just go back to where you came from. Staying here will only embarrass us and pollute our eyes." These words are really ugly, not to mention that Tang San and the others couldn't bear it. They were very angry. Tang Ge snorted even more. Before Daimyo Bei next to him made a move, he rushed out first. Seeing Tang Ge rushing over, the young man was startled and wanted to say something. But before he could speak, a fist greeted him, and he was thrown flying with one punch. Prince! Seeing the young man being blown away by a punch, the expressions of the other 9 people changed after they realized it, and quickly used their martial spirits. But it's a pity that even if they used their soul skills, it was futile. Boom, 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 boom. But in the blink of an eye, Tang Ge rushed over like a wolf into a flock of sheep, punching to the flesh. Suddenly, bursts of screams spread. Seeing this scene, Tang San and the others who were still very angry later couldn't help feeling happy. Flender couldn't help but said, "Well done, a dirty mouth should be repaired. I really didn't expect that Shyandao Royal Academy could teach such unqualified students this day, which is really disappointing. If I had known this earlier, I would not have come to this place." Hearing Flender's words, although Yu Zhigang also felt that the quality of the Shyandao Royal Academy in front of him was very poor. But they are a minority after all, unable to represent the students of the entire academy. So Yu Zhigang said to Flender, "No matter what, let's wait and make a decision." At this time, the 9 students of the Royal Academy who used their martial spirits had all been beaten to the ground by Tang Ge, unable to get up for a while. And the young man who uttered swear words received preferential treatment from Tang Ge, and he directly became a sandbag under his fist. In the end, when Tang Ge stomped the young man on the ground, it is estimated that the young man's mother would not recognize the young man. "Is your mouth still dirty?" Looking at the young man who was beaten into a pig's face by himself, Tang Ge said calmly. The young man had a ferocious face, staring at Tang Ge firmly. You dare to hit me? Do you know who I am? Oh? Tell me, who are you?" Tang Ge said with great interest. Enduring the severe pain on his face, the young man gritted his teeth and said, "I am Zhu Bang, the prince of the Heaven Dao Empire. Just wait, I will definitely tear you to pieces." Ha ha ha. "Even if you kneel down and beg me now, it's useless. No one can beat me and I can continue to live." In the end, he directly laughed ferociously. But after hearing this, Tang Ge was not only not afraid, but suddenly bent down to the young man's ear and whispered, "So you are Zhu Bang, then Zhu King must be your brother. Let me tell you some news. I heard that your brother is still alive." As soon as these words came out, the ferocious laughter of the young man Zhu Bang stopped abruptly. He looked at Tang Ge, his suddenly constricted pupils were filled with horror. End of this chapter. Chapter 164 Poison Douluo Dugubo. Zhu King, as the crown prince of the Heaven Dao Empire, has always been a mountain weighing on Zhu Bang's body, making him unable to breathe. He even became more and more afraid of Zhu King, as his older brothers and younger brothers had accidents one after another. For this reason, Zhu Bang didn't even dare to have the slightest thought, and came directly to Shyandao Royal Academy to dawdle. But just a few years ago, his eldest brother, the crown prince of the empire, had an accident and died in the hunting soul forest. Because of this incident, Emperor Zhu Yi was immediately furious, and sent heavy troops to search almost the entire soul hunting forest. But in the end, nothing was discovered. Prince Zhu King never saw anyone alive, nor did he see a dead body when he died. However, judging from the news brought back by the Soul Emperor, the chance of the prince being alive is 0. Therefore, this incident directly set off a huge storm in the entire empire, and the layout of the forces of all parties was completely disrupted. But it is undeniable that with the accident of Prince Zhu King, Zhu Bang, who was originally an almost transparent character, quietly entered everyone's sight. Some forces have even begun to secretly send out friendly signals to Prince Zhu Bang. Although Zhu Bang was very excited, a kind of fire called desire began to rekindle. But he still tried his best to suppress himself, not to let himself lose his position and cause accidents. But just now, the strange boy in front of him actually told his brother that Prince Zhu King was still alive. How could the prince still be alive? How can he live? In an instant, Zhu Bang was completely lost, and couldn't help but growl with red eyes. "You are lying to me, right? You must be lying to me. Tang Ge heard the system prompt sounding in his mind. He couldn't help smiling faintly, and took his feet back from Zhu Bang's body. Faced with Zhu Bang's trembling question, Tang Ge did not answer, but turned around and walked towards Flender and his party. Stop. Answer me. Behind him came the roar of an avalanche. Seeing Zhu Bang nearly collapsed, everyone didn't know what happened and seemed very confused. But at this moment, another figure walked over from a distance. It was Sun Buyu, the teacher of the academy, who came. Seeing Teacher Sun's arrival, the 9 students who had just been beaten up ran over and cried and complained about their suffering. Mr. Sun, you must be the master for us. Yes, yes. These people really don't care about our Shy and our Royal Academy. They just beat us, but they even dare to beat Prince Zhu Bang. Sun Buyu was also shocked when he heard that Zhu Bang was beaten, and saw that Zhu Bang was about to collapse. But he could feel the existence of several of the dozen or so strangers opposite him whose breath was not weaker than his own at all. What is the origin of these people? With doubts in his heart, Sun Buyu walked over. Looking at Flender, who had the strongest aura among them, he asked, I don't know why you all came to my Heavendao Royal Academy. At the invitation of Teacher Qin Ming from your academy, our Shrek Academy came to exchange and study with your academy. Shrek Academy? Sun Buyu was taken aback for a moment, and then suddenly realized. Naturally, he had known about this from Qin Ming, and he knew the strength of the Shrek Academy teachers, so he couldn't help but be overjoyed. Especially after learning about what happened just now, he immediately apologized to Flender and the others, and immediately invited everyone to enter the academy together. As soon as he left, the 9 students who stayed here couldn't help shouting. What's the matter with Mr. Sun? We were obviously beaten, but in the end, not only did he not stand up for us, but he was also so polite to those bumpkins. Damn it. It's really hateful. How can you let them leave so easily? Prince Zhu Bang, don't tell me that's all you need. In the end, everyone's eyes turned to Zhu Bang. At this moment, Zhu Bang's mood was much calmer than before. But seeing that the 9 people in front of him couldn't beat even one of them, he immediately cursed angrily. Why are you talking so much nonsense? Get the hell out of here. What a bunch of trash. Hearing the prince's scolding, the 9 students trembled in fright, and left here as if fleeing. Immediately, only Zhu Bang was left on the spot. Thinking of what the strange boy said in his ear just now, his eyes were full of resentment. Regardless of whether you are lying to me or not, this matter will not be settled like this. After saying that, Zhu Bang didn't go back to the academy, but turned around and walked outside the academy. Under Sun Buyu's guidance, Flender and the others soon met Qin Ming, who had rushed over. Immediately, Sun Buyu left due to something else, while Qin Ming stayed behind and walked towards the academy's educational committee together with Flender and the others. During this period, after Flender learned about the rules for classifying the teachers of the Royal Academy, he was still very satisfied with the Shyandao level treatment they could get as soon as they joined. After all, several teachers are here to provide for the elderly. How can they provide for the elderly without good treatment? Seeing that the teachers didn't show any resistance, and they agreed with the college's environment, Qin Ming was relieved of his worries all the time. Moreover, when he brought Flender and his party to the education committee, the 3 leaders of the education committee were already waiting here in formal attire. The 3 persons in charge are Ming Shenji, Bei Baoshan, and Zilin, all of whom are contra cultivation bases above level. The 3 of them are virtuous corporals, and even though Flender's impression of the academy has deteriorated because of the previous avalanche incident, he couldn't help being flattered at this moment. After the teachers and students of Shrek Academy were invited to join the education committee, after some inquiry and understanding, Ming Shenji welcomed Flender and them very much. Moreover, Zilin Sol Douluo personally took the initiative to test Tang San, an excellent student who Master Yu Zhiagang said was excellent. As a result, Tang San's performance surprised him very much. He never expected that such a small Shrek Academy could cultivate such excellent students. And the opponent turned out to be the blue-silver grass known as a waste martial soul. It's just that the 3 education committees didn't know that if it weren't for Tang Ge's low-key, they would not be surprised today, but shocked. In the end, Meng Shenji was ready to clean up the dust for Flender and his party, and welcomed them to join. But just as he finished speaking, a majestic and thick male voice suddenly came in from outside. And many more. Immediately following the sound of footsteps, 3 figures appeared in the education committee. One of them was Zhu Bang, who had been beaten up by Tang Ge before, and his face was still red and swollen. As soon as he came in, He stared at Tang Ge firmly, with a cruel smile on his face. Tang Ge noticed Zhu Bang's venomous gaze, and didn't pay any attention to it. Because when the other party came in, his attention was focused on another tall and thin old man next to him. The breath is full of illusion, the beard and hair are all dark green, and even the eyes are shining with deep green light like emeralds. Suddenly, a name appeared in Tang Ge's mind. Poison Douluo Dugubo. End of this chapter. Chapter 165 has a relationship with your granddaughter. There were two people who accompanied Zhu Bang in. One of them was a silver-haired old man in Chinese clothes, with small eyes, slightly fat body, and not very good-looking. But the rhubarb robe embroidered with brocade flowers on his body added a bit of majesty to him, coupled with the aura he had cultivated from being in the top position for a long time. As soon as he appeared, he looked down at Ming Shenji and others. It seems that in his eyes, Contra is nothing at all. Facing this look of contempt, whether it was the three education committee members of Ming Shenji or Flender and his team, they felt extremely uncomfortable. But what really surprised and dignified them was the tall and thin old man with dark green hair standing on the other side of the avalanche. The tall and thin old man didn't have a breath, his feet clearly landed on the ground, but he didn't make the slightest footstep sound. He stood there like an illusory person, and if he didn't look at it with his naked eyes, he couldn't perceive the existence of this person at all. Moreover, this old man has kept his hands behind his back since he came in, his eyes are slightly closed, and he doesn't care about the gazes falling on him. At this moment, Ming Shenji also came to his senses. He immediately took a few steps forward, bowed to another old man in fine clothes, and said, "Prince, why are you here at the academy?" It turned out that this was Prince Zhu Xing of the Heaven Dao Empire. When Ming Shenji spoke, he didn't bother to be polite at all. He glanced directly at Flender and his party behind him, and said indifferently, "In my empire's academy, there are outsiders who dare to beat the empire's prince. Ming Shenji, should you give me an explanation?" Ming Shenji's complexion changed slightly, and he immediately understood that the Prince Zhu Xing in front of him was probably here to stand up for Zhu Bang. But he had already learned from Qin Ming and Flender that Zhu Bang was completely to blame for being beaten. So facing Prince Zhu Xing's questioning, Ming Shenji immediately said, "Prince, who is the outsider you are talking about? If it is Flender and the others, then there must be a misunderstanding. After some discussions before, Dean Flender and these Shrek Academy teachers and students have joined our Shyandao Royal Academy as an exchange and study. And with Dean Flender's strength and teaching experience, they are fully qualified to enjoy the Academy's Shyandao level treatment." When Ming Shenji said these words, he obviously wanted to block Prince Zhu Xing's mouth directly, so as not to give the other party a chance to find a reason. But unfortunately, sometimes there is no reason to ask for trouble at all. So after Ming Shenji finished speaking, Prince Zhu Xing snorted angrily. "Negotiation? As the general manager of the academy, why didn't the king know about the negotiation? Could it be that Ming Shenji didn't take me seriously? And if you are strong, you can be qualified to enter my Shyandao Royal Academy. When did my Heaven Dao Imperial Academy's entry qualification become so low? Ming Shenji, you have to remember that Shyandao Imperial Academy is the pillar of the empire. It is a place to send talents for the empire. I will absolutely not allow some arrogant and domineering people to appear in the academy. And these people actually dare to do something to Prince Zhu Bang. They are simply trampling on the face of the royal family. I would be very kind if I didn't kill them. Still want to stay? Where did you come from? Hurry up and go where?" These words did not give Ming Shenji any face at all, making Ming Shenji's face gloomy and ugly. Flender couldn't help but stood up and said, "Don't you ask why Zhu Bang was beaten. Even if the fourth prince made a mistake first, he is still the fourth prince. What qualifications do you ordinary people have to do it? Get out. If you don't get out, one of them will also be wanted to leave." Prince Zhu Xing said with a hint of sarcasm on his face. Flender was so angry that he wanted to do something. But at this moment, the tall and thin old man who had kept his eyes closed suddenly opened them, and a strong green light was released directly from him. Immediately afterwards, circles of halos rose from the tall and thin old man's feet. As soon as 9 soul rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple, and 5 black, appeared, their dazzling light instantly made the entire education committee hall dazzling. At the same time, there were bursts of air conditioning sounds. Unexpectedly, it turned out to be a tidal Douluo. Not only the faces of the 3 education committee members changed, the Shrek students were even shocked, and looked at the tall and thin old man with disbelief. Especially Flender, who was about to do something, was sweating uncontrollably. The tall and thin old man's eyes fell on Flender, and he said indifferently, "Can you try it yourself?" Immediately following the flickering of the soul ring, an illusory giant snake phantom gradually emerged from behind him, spitting out slender snake letters. Flender had given up on rebutting at first, but he felt the disdainful eyes of the tall and thin old man, and the anger in his heart suddenly burst out uncontrollably. He gritted his teeth loudly. But Yu Zhigang at the side suddenly stretched out his hand and forcibly pulled him behind him. Looking at the tall and thin old man a few meters away, Yu Zhigang took a deep breath and said, "If I'm not mistaken, Your Excellency must be the poisoned Douluo Dugubo Sr. who is titled Poison. I didn't expect anyone here to recognize me. Now that you know my name, why don't you get out?" Dugubo, whose identity was recognized, said with a sneer. Facing such humiliation, Yu Zhigang not only didn't get angry, but was unusually calm. "Okay, let's go." But he just raised his feet, following the signal of Prince Zuzing not far away. Dugubo swept the Shrek people with his cold eyes, and finally stopped on Tang Ge. He pointed at Tang Ge and said, "Others can go, but this kid has to stay." As soon as these words came out, Yu Zio's feet that had just been raised froze in midair, and her originally calm face finally turned ugly. The three instructors, who had been standing behind the unborn Ming Shenji, couldn't stand it any longer, and walked forward at the same time without any discussion. The three of them faced Dugubo directly, and released their own martial spirits and spirit rings one after another. "Dugubo, don't go too far." Ming Shenji stared at Dugubo even more, and said angrily, "Am I overdoing it?" As if hearing something funny, Dugubo couldn't help showing a smile on his face. While slowly raising his hand, he said, "Then let you see how much I really have. Wait. Senior Dugubo, can I have a few words with you alone? Please don't refuse. This matter has something to do with your granddaughter." As a result, before Dugubo could finish speaking, someone suddenly interrupted him at this moment. If it was something else, Dugubo would not only ignore it, but would even slap the person who dared to interrupt him to death. But the other party mentioned his granddaughter. This directly attracted Dugubo's attention. When he looked in the direction of the voice, he immediately saw Tang Ge, who was smiling at him not far away. End of this chapter. Chapter 166. My surname is Tang. Think about it. Dugubo didn't know Tang Ge's name, but he knew that the main purpose of his visit this time was to take him away at Prince Zuxing's request. Although he didn't know the reason for this, he didn't care about it. A small child can't interest Dugubo at all. But now he suddenly realized that the little guy in front of him, who was able to face him with a calm smile after showing his strength, seemed a bit special. And the other party even wanted to talk to him alone about his granddaughter. So Dugubo's interest was immediately seduced. But this didn't affect him teaching the other party a lesson of daring to interrupt his speech. With a wave of his hand, the surging momentum rushed over and enveloped him. The coercion released by title Douluo cannot be said to be weak. Although this is not the full strength of Dugubo, it is still not something low-level soul masters can resist. Even if a soul emperor stands here, he probably won't be able to hold on for too long. Seeing this scene, the three of Ming Shenji thought that Dugubo was going to make a move, and couldn't help shouting loudly, "Dugubo! How dare you, Tang Ge, Brother Tang!" The students and teachers of Shrek Academy couldn't help but exclaimed. But without waiting for these people to do anything, Tang Ge immediately said loudly, "Don't worry, Senior Dugubo just wants to test my strength, and it won't be against me." After finishing speaking, he looked at Dugubo opposite again, with a relaxed smile on his face. "Senior Dugubo, is this junior's strength still impressive? If you think it's good, I still want to talk to you about your granddaughter, is it alright?" And under Dugubo's perception, he could clearly judge that as his aura enveloped him, the kid in front of him really wasn't affected too much. In other words, unless you erupt with all your strength, it won't affect the opponent at all. This made Dugubo depressed, but at the same time very amazed. Facing Tang Ge's opening again, he was silent for a moment, and then suddenly snorted, "If you can't explain why, I will let you taste the taste of being slowly poisoned to death." The words fall. With a gust of wind, before everyone could react, Dugubo carried Tang Ge and disappeared directly in the hall of the Education Committee. Tang Ge, Flender, who came back to his senses, couldn't help a cry of shock and anger, and wanted to chase after him. But Yu Zhigang suddenly reached out to stop him. Flender turned his head and stared at Yu Zhigang, and said, "What did you stop me from doing?" Didn't you see that Tang Ge was taken away? Then what's the use of catching up? Can you save someone from a title Douluo? Yu Zhigang said calmly without getting angry. Flender stomped his feet fiercely angrily, and for the first time hated himself for being too weak for not being able to keep his own students. Yu Zhigang could understand Flender's mood. He stretched out his hand and patted the other person's shoulder, and comforted him. Don't worry, if Senior Douluo wants to kill Tang Ge, he won't take him away directly. Let's wait here. If it doesn't work, isn't there another person? Said. Yu Zhigang turned his head and glanced in Tang San's direction. After Flender noticed it, his anxious and remorseful heart calmed down a little, but he still gritted his teeth and said, he'd better not hurt Tang Ge, or I, Flender, will spend my whole life with him. At this time, the 3 education committee members who stayed at the scene also looked at the instigator of this incident. Prince Zuzing Meng Shenji even said sharply, Prince Zuzing, today's matter is all caused by you. After today, the old man will go to His Majesty to write a book of impeachment, and let His Majesty judge. He was really angry this time. Prince Zuzing couldn't help frowning when he heard it, and said lightly, as you wish. It's just that in his heart, he suddenly began to feel a little regretful. After all, the news that Zubang mentioned is very likely to be false. If all the previous plans were wasted because of this false news, then the loss outweighs the gain. Never mind. Let's talk about everything after Mr. Douluo comes back. Turning his head to look at Zubang, who was looking smug and excited, Prince Zuzing secretly sighed, and immediately stopped thinking about it. Outside the Xiandao Imperial Academy, in a forest in the back mountain, Douluo appeared here directly with Tang Ge. There's no one else here now, tell me. Looking at Tang Ge, Douluo said calmly. His voice was calm, but Tang Ge knew that if he didn't say something, the other party would never be merciful. But Tang Ge was not afraid, and said with a smile, actually, it's nothing. This junior just wants to talk to Senior Douluo alone, and tell Senior Douluo that your granddaughter has been deeply poisoned. I'm afraid she won't live long. My granddaughter has been poisoned? At this moment, Douluo seemed to hear a big joke, and couldn't help laughing out loud. Boy, I'm Douluo, titled Poison Douluo. Do you think anyone can poison my granddaughter in front of me? Boy, do you think I'm easy to cheat? After laughing here, Douluo's eyes suddenly widened, and with a flash of sternness, surging soul power gushed out of him directly. Immediately, these soul powers condensed into dark green palms, and they grabbed Tang Ge directly. The terrifying aura enveloped the surroundings even more, as if to block all Tang Ge's escape routes. From the beginning to the end, Tang Ge did not dodge, allowing Douluo to control the dark green soul power palm, grabbing him and lifting him into the air. Tang Ge felt a sense of suffocation as the terrifying confinement force came. But at the same time, the ancient holy body was also stimulated, and the drop of golden blood began to flow rapidly with the blood in the body. The meteor tears released a steady stream of energy, which was continuously absorbed by the ancient holy body. Others don't know how to poison, but your granddaughter can poison herself. Besides, Senior Douluo may have been poisoned quite a bit. Feeling the changes in his body, Tang Ge didn't panic, and smiled at Douluo immediately afterwards. He repeated what Tang San said to Douluo in his memory. After listening, Douluo's complexion changed slightly, and his brows were directly wrinkled. What the other party said was completely consistent with his own symptoms. Could it be true? If so, a hint of worry flashed across Douluo's emerald green eyes. But immediately his face turned gloomy. Looking at Tang Ge, who was still smiling at this moment, he snorted coldly. Nonsense. Boy, aren't you afraid that I'll kill you, Senior Douluo? Since I propose to talk to you alone, do you think I will be afraid that you will kill me? Besides, my surname is Tang. Think about it carefully. Is this surname familiar? Did you think of someone? Facing Douluo's threat, Tang Ge said calmly, end of this chapter. Period. Chapter 167. Don't leave it. There are many people with this surname Tang, but in this world, there is only one person with this surname that Douluo is familiar with. But for Douluo, that one gave him not only familiarity, but full of fear. So hearing Tang Ge's words at this moment, Douluo frowned directly. He fixed his eyes on the little guy in front of him who could be crushed to death by himself at any time, trying to see something from the other person's face. But it's a pity that Tang Ge has a smile on his face from beginning to end, without fear or anxiety when lying. This can't help but make Douluo more and more interested in Tang Ge. He had never met a low-level soul master who could behave so calmly in front of Douluo. What's more, The other party doesn't seem to be very old. But is the other party really related to that one? Douluo couldn't be sure, and didn't continue to ask. With a cold snort, the dark green soul power palm was dissipated immediately, and Tang Ge fell directly from midair. Go away, boy. So, Senior Douluo doesn't intend to kill me, does he? Tang Ge rubbed his sore shoulders, looked at Douluo, who was full of arrogance, and said with a smile. But in his heart, he had already determined that the plan this time was a success. The next thing to wait for is Yang Ziya fishing, those who wish to take the bait. Douluo didn't know what Tang Ge was thinking, but when he saw this kid so proud, he felt angry immediately. He simply condensed another dark green palm, grabbed Tang Ge and threw it away, and it disappeared instantly as a black shadow. HMPH. If you dare to talk to this old man like that, I won't beat you to death. Douluo gave a cold laugh, and immediately soared into the air and flew towards the academy. Soon he returned to the hall of the education committee. Seeing Douluo come back alone, the faces of the Shrek people who had been waiting anxiously all the time couldn't help but suddenly changed. Stopping Flender, who was about to run away, Yuziagang said in a deep voice, "Dare to ask Senior Douluo, where's the child you took away just now? Let it go." Douluo said lightly, "Let go, let go?" As soon as these words came out, Yuziagang couldn't help showing a stunned expression on his face. The others were stunned when they heard it. Among them, Zubang couldn't help but said anxiously, "How can you let him go? He just beat me." Boom. As a result, before he could finish speaking, a terrifying aura enveloped him and directly pressed him to the ground. "I do things, do you need to teach me?" Looking at Zubang lying on the ground, Douluo said coldly. After Prince Zuzing came to his senses, he hurriedly said, "Mr. Douluo, calm down. HMPH, I still want to see my granddaughter, so I won't stay here with you." After regaining his momentum, Douluo flew out of the hall of the education committee after leaving these words. Flender wanted to catch up, but Yuziagang stopped him. Then Yuziagang turned around and bowed to the 3 education committee members of Mingxianji. "The 3 members of the education committee, please forgive me, we may not be able to stay in Shrek Academy. Flender, little 3, let's go." After finishing speaking, he let go of Flender, left the hall with everyone in Shrek Academy, and went straight outside the academy. Among them, because of the humiliation of his alma mater, Qinming no longer wanted to stay in Shyandao Royal Academy, and left with Yuziagang and the others. For a moment, there were only the 3 education committee members with helpless faces left in the hall, and Prince Zuzing with an extremely gloomy expression. At the foot of the mountain, when Flender, Yuziagang and other members of the Shrek Academy rushed down, they saw Tang Ge from a distance. "Hi everyone." They were all relieved when they heard Tang Ge say hello. After walking over, Flender glared at Tang Ge after making sure that Tang Ge was not missing any arms or legs, and said, "What's the matter? Do you know that when we saw you being taken away by the title Douluo, we were almost scared to death? If you really want to encounter this kind of thing again in the future, you boy, get the hell out of me. The teachers haven't fallen down yet. Do you need to stand up?" After the words fell, it seemed that he was still not enjoying himself, and Flender raised his hand and knocked on Tang Ge's head again. Tang Ge could have avoided it, but when he noticed the genuine worry and fear in the opponent's eyes, he immediately gave up avoiding it. "Forget it, if you get knocked, you won't lose a piece of meat, as long as the dean feels comfortable." Yuchen, Xiaowu, Zuz Huking and the others who came over together not far away still had worried expressions on their faces. But when he saw Tang Ge's aggrieved appearance when he was taught by Flender, he couldn't help laughing. The originally depressing atmosphere has also become much more relaxed. Among them, Daimyo Bei said very curiously, "Tang Ge, that one is a title Douluo, how did you convince him to let you go?" As soon as these words came out, other people also pricked up their ears, obviously curious about this matter. But Tang Ge showed a mysterious smile on his face, and said, "This is a secret between me and Senior Douluo, I can't tell you. Dean, we may not be able to stay at Shyandao Royal Academy this time. Where are we going next?" Hearing that Tang Ge said it was a secret, he took the initiative to change the topic. Although everyone was disappointed, they didn't ask any more questions. Qin Ming, who followed, couldn't help feeling guilty, and said, "Dean, I originally wanted you to join the academy, but I didn't expect this to happen. If I had known this earlier, I would have picked you up at the door ahead of time." Hearing Qin Ming's words, Flender smiled and reached out to pat him on the shoulder. "This matter has nothing to do with you, How could we blame you? We can only say that time is fate. Qin Ming, go back and say sorry to the 3 education committees for us. But Qin Ming shook his head. No need, I have already resigned from the 3 boards of education, so it doesn't matter if I don't want to stay in this academy that doesn't allow others. Now that I, Qin Ming, am alone, I wonder if the dean is willing to take him in? After finishing speaking, his eyes could not help but be filled with anticipation when he looked at Flender. After hearing this, Flender was slightly taken aback, and then said, "Are you sure you want to leave Shandao Royal Academy?" "Sure," Qin Ming nodded. Zhao Wuji and other Shrek Academy teachers standing not far away couldn't help but feel very pleased with Qin Ming's decision. Flender couldn't help laughing out loud. "I'm too happy that you can come back. Why would you refuse? Since the Heavendao Imperial Academy does not accept us, then we will go to the Heavendao Imperial City. I believe there will always be a high-level academy that would like us to join. Go to Heavendao Imperial City. I don't stay here, I have my own place to stay. Go to Tamar's Shandao Royal Academy." "Ma Hongjin, did you learn this swearing from Tang Ge? It's a bit harsh, but it's really refreshing." Tang Ge. Just like that, a group of more than 10 people from Shrek Academy headed towards the direction of Heavendao Imperial City. Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Chapter 168. As the capital of the Heavendao Empire, the scale of the Heavendao Imperial City is naturally beyond the reach of ordinary cities. It's approaching evening. When Flender and his party arrived outside the Shandao Huang City, what caught their eyes was a huge city gate 10 meters high and 10 meters wide, enough for 6 riders to enter. There is also a 5-meter wide auxiliary gate on both sides of the main city gate. An endless stream of pedestrians kept coming in and out under the inspection of the city gate guards, and it was extremely lively. Originally, Flender and the others planned to find a place to rest for the night after entering the city, and wait until the next day to see if there was a suitable advanced Soul Master Academy. As a result, as soon as they arrived at the gate of Shandao Imperial City, a recruitment notice posted at the gate immediately attracted their attention. Recruitment, Lanba Advanced Soul Master Academy, due to its own expansion reasons, is now looking for 10 Soul Masters above level, and those with high soul power will be given priority. Once hired, the treatment will be favorable. Lanba Academy? Flender couldn't help being surprised when he saw it, and said, "I was just about to find a college to settle down, but unexpectedly I came across a job advertisement. And this Lanba Academy can be opened in the Shandao Imperial City. It seems that if it is not weaker than the Shandao Royal Academy, it is not much weaker. Qin Ming, you have been here for a long time. Do you know anything about this academy?" After speaking, his eyes moved to Qin Ming. Qin Ming hurriedly said, "I don't know the background of Lanba Academy, but its scale is 1/3 the size of Shandao Royal Academy, and the cost is no less than the other party, and they all have their own mimicry training environment. In addition, I also learned that this academy eliminated one of the 2 participating teams from the Shandao Royal Academy in the last Continental Advanced Soul Master Academy competition in the Shandao Capital Circle qualifiers. It's just that this year's Blue Tyrant Academy's situation will not be so good because of the graduation of its students." Flender nodded. Judging from these materials alone, Lanba Academy is a good place to go. So he finally asked, "What about teaching experience?" "The teaching of this academy is very rigorous, and it only accepts civilians, not nobles, so if it has no background, it is absolutely impossible to stay in the capital of the empire." After finishing speaking, Qin Ming said with some expectation, "Could it be that the dean is going to choose this academy? Is it an academy that only accepts commoners and not nobles?" A light flashed in Flender's eyes, and he didn't answer immediately, but looked at Yu Ziegang and other teachers and students. "What do you think? You can decide." Yu Ziegang shook his head and said. After hearing this, other teachers and students also opened their mouths. "Wherever the dean goes, we will go there." "Okay. Since that's the case, then it's decided. Let's go to Lanba Academy." Seeing that everyone agreed, Flender laughed out loud. After entering the city, after some inquiries, they walked through the streets and alleys, and finally came to the outside of Lanba Academy. At the entrance of the college, in order to facilitate consultation, a consultation desk has been set up here. A 40-year-old college soul master is sitting behind the consultation desk. When he learned that Flender and his group were here to apply for the job, the sleepy reception teacher who was waiting was refreshed, got up immediately and led them into the Lanba Academy. In Lanba Academy, a wide road leads directly to the depths, and there are all kinds of tall trees on both sides. After the introduction by the reception teacher, Flender and the others knew that the entire academy was built in the middle of the forest. So apart from the college buildings, the rest are all forests. As twilight falls, there is a unique beauty. Seeing such a beautiful scenery, the teachers and students of Shrek Academy were very satisfied. Then they were taken by the reception teacher to a steeple building, which was a special place for testing soul power. But this is not a problem at all for the teachers of Shrek Academy, whose soul power is at least level. In particular, after Zhao Wuji and Flender, the two soul sages, showed their martial souls and soul rings, they came to test the three teachers of the Lamba Academy and were directly shocked. And among them is the Soul Emperor, who is thought to have reached level 30 in his 62s. With such a high-quality applicant team, how dare these three teachers go out and fight each other in person, and directly cancelled the next test relief. At the end, one of the teachers who was in charge of the reception couldn't help but smiled wryly. In the next audiobook, Level 54 Assault System Battle Soul Masters, the levels of the seniors are too high. I'm afraid I can't rate you. How about this? I will take you to meet the dean of our college, and the dean will decide your grade and treatment. It's really rare that a group of soul emperors and soul saints over level, actually form a group to apply for the job. When Flender heard Yinshu's words, he smiled and nodded in agreement. Immediately, under the guidance of Yinshu, the group of them left the testing area and walked directly towards the depths of the academy. Gradually, there are fewer and fewer buildings around, replaced by denser and denser woods. The sunset glow in the distant sky sprinkled on the non-stop flowing stream, glowing with colorful rays of light. A wooden arch bridge connects the two banks of the stream, and the shadow of the attic is faintly seen on the opposite side. As soon as everyone came here, they heard bursts of beautiful but sad piano sounds coming from the attic opposite. The sound of the piano made Flender and the others couldn't help but stop, held their breath involuntarily and began to listen, and gradually fell into memories. At some point, the sound of the piano stopped, and tears fell from the eyes of Flender and Uzaya Gang. On the side, Yinshu, who came back to his senses, could not help but cough and woke everyone up. Then he whispered, "The dean likes to be quiet, so he usually lives here if there is nothing to do. You wait, I'll talk to the dean right now." Immediately, Yinshu walked directly to the wooden bridge in front, and spoke loudly to the attic across the river. "Dean, there are several seniors who have come to the academy to apply for employment. They have high levels of soul power, and you need to personally decide before you come forward." After finishing speaking, Yinshu waited quietly. The whole group of Shrek Academy behind was also eagerly waiting. Very curious about what kind of person the dean who could play the piano sound just now was. In this way, almost a few minutes passed. With the sound of footsteps, a figure walked out of the attic and slowly appeared in front of everyone. This is a beautiful woman who looks to be in her 30s, wearing a simple blue sarong, but she can't hide her charm at all. Under the sarong, there are many mountains and peaks, high and low, making countless women envious and jealous. But there was a touch of paleness on her delicate face, revealing a touch of pain and loneliness that I still feel pity for. However, when the beautiful woman looked up to the other side of the river, her eyes froze over Flender and Uzaya Gang, and her beautiful eyes instantly became dull. Zio Gang, is that you? Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. Period. Chapter 169 Dean, are you willing? Third update, Yinshu didn't notice the situation of the beautiful woman, and was about to speak, but saw that the other party did not know what tricks, and suddenly appeared in front of everyone across the stream. She ignored the stunned Yinshu, and walked in front of Uzaya Gang with tears streaming down her beautiful face. Looking at Uzaya Gang, the beautiful woman wanted to reach out and touch the other's face, but she was afraid that everything she saw was just a dream and would disappear as soon as she touched it. Her voice was trembling. "Zio Gang, is it really you? Am I not dreaming?" At this time, Uzaya Gang, who was in a daze, finally came back to his senses. Hearing the beautiful woman's words, there was pain in his eyes, and he turned to leave. But after Flender reacted, he directly grabbed Uzaya Gang's shoulder, and said angrily, "Hiding? Are you still hiding? Uzaya Gang, are you a man? How long are you going to hide?" Uzaya Gang opened his mouth to say something, but still lowered his head. Flender sighed softly, looked at the beautiful woman in front of him, and said, "I didn't expect that after so many years, our golden triangle would reunite here again. Erlong Mei, are you okay?" Hearing Flender's words, The beautiful woman's eyes reluctantly moved away from Yu Zhigang and fell on Flender. There was unspeakable emotion in her eyes, and she said, "Boss Fu, I haven't seen you for many years, and you are still the same. What, the old look is old?" Flender couldn't help laughing bitterly. But then he put away the complicated feelings in his heart, pointed to Zhao Wuji and Tang San beside them, and introduced them. "Erlong Mei, these are my teachers and students from Shrek Academy, but I came to ask you for a living today. You have to take us in, otherwise there will be no place to go." "What does it mean to have no place to go? It is obviously the dean that you have no place to go." Hearing Flender's words, Zhao Wuji and others were speechless. However, they could tell that both Dean Flender and the master knew the dean of the Lamba Academy in front of them, so they were very curious about the relationship between the three of them. As if aware of this, Flender took the initiative to tell the relationship between Liu Erlong, the dean of Lamba Academy, and the relationship between him and Yu Zhigang. When they learned that the beautiful woman in front of them was the killing horn in the golden iron triangle, Zhao Wuji and other talents suddenly realized it. But they were even more amazed that the dignified killing horn turned out to be such a beautiful woman. As for Liu Erlong, after learning from Flender the reason why they came to Lamba Academy, he was immediately furious. "What a heaven Dao Imperial Academy, Boss Fu, don't say anything, just stay in my Lamba Academy with peace of mind." Wrong. From now on, Lamba Academy has officially changed its name to Shrek Academy, and you, Boss Fu, will be the dean of this academy from now on. Tomorrow, I will hold a meeting of all teachers and students to announce this decision, so you don't have to ask me about the salary, just decide for yourself. For Liu Erlong's decision, not to mention that others did not expect it, even Flender was taken aback. He couldn't help but said, "Second Dragon Girl, do you really want to give me such a big college nun? Don't you regret it? It's just a mere academy. Even if I want something else, I, Liu Erlong, am willing to give it away," Liu Erlong said very domineeringly. Immediately afterwards, she explained to Yinshu, who was in a daze not far away, "Grandma Yinshu, please go and announce the holding of the faculty students meeting of the whole college tomorrow, reminiscing about the past. So by the way, you can help the cafeteria to prepare a well-dressed dinner in the private room on the second floor, and I want to entertain them." Okay, I'll go now." After Yinshu came back to his senses, although he smiled wryly at the decision made by the dean, he didn't dare to refute it. After he took his leave, he turned and left quickly. When Flender heard what Liu Erlong said just now, he really wanted to say, "I want to, do you want to give it?" Just looking at Yu Zhigang, who was silent all the time, he finally endured this impulse. Pushing Yu Zhigang, Flender said angrily, "How long are you going to pretend to be dumb?" When Liu Erlong heard this, he also looked at Yu Zhigang with resentful eyes. "Zhigang, are you going to beat me like this for the rest of your life without talking to me?" Yu Zhigang opened his mouth, but still didn't say anything. But Liu Erlong showed a smile on his face. "Even if you don't speak now, I won't let you escape from me again. Boss Fu, since this academy has become yours, you have to get to know the academy anyway, right? Let's go. Before dark, I'll take you around the academy and familiarize yourself with the environment and layout of the academy." After finishing speaking, Liu Erlong didn't hesitate to talk to Yu Zhigang anymore, and let everyone out of here directly. Next, a group of more than 10 of them walked and chatted in the Lamba Academy, and an hour passed before they knew it. The sky was also completely dark, and the stars appeared all over the sky, and they began to blink their playful eyes. Wisps of moonlight fell down and shone on the stream in the back forest of the college, which immediately glowed with silver light. Taking advantage of this very beautiful night because of the encounter, the Golden Iron Triangle took a group of back waves to have a sumptuous dinner in the cafeteria on the second floor of the college. Everyone was chatting and laughing, sweeping away the unhappiness they had encountered at Xiandao Imperial Academy during the day. It's just that during this period, Yu Zhigang was the only one who was so preoccupied that he didn't even eat much. So after the dinner was over, as everyone dispersed, Yu Zhigang suddenly asked Tang San to walk towards the woods behind the academy. After a while, Liu Erlong, who had a heart for Yu Zhigang, also followed secretly. And behind Liu Erlong, secretly followed Flender, who had been very indifferent during the day. In this way, a love triangle relationship unconsciously appeared in front of Tang Ge. Because of his understanding of the plot, Tang Ge knew the situation between the Golden Iron Triangle early on. But seeing it with his own eyes now, Tang Ge, who hadn't gone back to rest, couldn't help shaking his head. In the end, I still have to go out, then he followed. Not a moment. Tang Ge came to the edge of the forest, and saw Yu Zhigang and Tang San's conversation from a distance. After Liu Erlong heard the conversation between Yu Zhigang and Tang San, Liu Erlong ran out with tears in his eyes. Because of the influence of what Tang San said before, Yu Zhigang did not avoid this time, but embraced affectionately with Liu Erlong. Both of them burst into tears. Another 7 or 8 meters away, on a tall and dense tree, Flender was hiding here. When he saw Yu Zhigang and Liu Erlong hugging each other in the distance, he clenched his fists uncontrollably, his eyes full of struggle. But then Flender couldn't help but let out a low sigh. I can't think too much about what doesn't belong to me after all. As a result, as soon as he said these words, a faint voice suddenly sounded behind him. Just give up like this? Are you willing, Dean? Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. If you are listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means it was downloaded and re-uploaded without effort. We warmly invite you to visit our channel, Fanfic World. There you will find the original version of this story and many other novels of various genres. We look forward to seeing you dive into a world of incredible novels. Chapter 170I, Flender, Have a Clear Conscience. Flender was secretly feeling sad, but he never thought that there would be a sudden sound behind him. He was so frightened that he staggered and almost fell from the tree. Fortunately, a hand reached out and grabbed his arm, avoiding the tragedy of the dean of a college accidentally fell under a tree and died because of peeping. In addition, Flender did not act because he heard the word dean in Yao Yao's words. When he stabilized his body and turned around, he saw that the person who surprised him was actually Tang Ge. For a moment, Flender couldn't help but glared at the other party, and lowered his voice angrily. You kid, why are you here if you don't go to rest? Then why don't you go back to rest, Dean, and come here? Tang Ge smiled and asked back. Flender hesitated for a moment. In the end, he also seemed to know that the brat in front of him must have seen the relationship between himself, Liu Erlong and Yu Zhigang. In addition to his whisper just now and Yu Zhigang and Liu Erlong, who were hugging each other not far away. Flender didn't hide anymore, just like the conversation between Tang San and Yu Zhigang, he told Tang Ge about their golden iron triangle experience. At the end, he looked at Tang Ge and sighed. Emotions are the most complicated thing, and if you don't clean it up, it will be chaotic. No matter how unwilling I am, what Erlong Mei likes is Zhigang. If I forcefully penetrate, not to mention not getting Erlong Mei, even my friendship with her will be completely broken. This is really not the result I want to see. Instead of this, it is better to give up early, so as not to suffer from the pain of love sickness. Hearing Flender's words, what Tang Ge treated rationally was indeed reasonable. After all, one-sided love is rarely fruitful. But in terms of sensibility, Tang Ge is not Tang San, and the relationship with Yu Zhigang is not close. On the contrary, because of what happened at Shandao Royal Academy before, he has completely agreed with a Dean Flender in his heart. Although the other party usually looks greedy and stingy, but when it comes to critical moments, he is definitely the kind of lover who is willing to go all out for the students. Tang Ge is more willing to treat such a dean as his family. So he didn't want Dean Flanders to obviously like Liu Erlong, but pretended to push him into the arms of other men. But the final pain can only be left to himself, hiding in the dark and suffering silently. This is extremely unfair to Flender. Since Tang Ge is here, it is necessary to help push the other party from behind. What's more, so what if it's just a one-sided love? Even if you can't get the other person's heart at first, you have to get the other person's body first. You can't work hard for so long and get nothing, right? This is really too bad. So after sorting out the thoughts in his mind, Tang Ge lowered his voice as much as possible, and said to Flender, Dean, I understand your decision, and I also understand that you don't want to destroy the relationship between you and Senior Erlong. But do you know, Dean, if you are together with Master Chengqun and Dean Erlong, this is actually harming them. Why am I hurting them? Flender was a little puzzled. Tang Ge sighed, and said, it seems that you really don't know the dangers of marriage between close relatives. Let's not talk about ethics. Just the fact that 90.00% of the children born in close relatives are idiots is enough to make the Thunder Tyrannosaurus family do everything possible to prevent Grandmaster and Dean Erlong from being together. Just think about it, it would be embarrassing enough for the Thunder Tyrannosaurus Rex family, one of the top 3 sects, to produce a master, If another child who was born a fool appeared, the Thunder Tyrannosaurus Rex family would lose all face and become the entire martial arts master. The object of jokes in the soul world. I think at that time, when the patriarch of the Thunder Tyrannosaurus Rex family made a move again, he would not only take away Dean Erlong. In order to maintain the face of the whole family, the final result of the two of them is definitely dead. At the end of the conversation, Tang Ge bit the word death very hard. But Flender, who was puzzled at first, seemed to be struck by lightning, and after a sudden tremor, he seemed to lose all his strength, and suddenly fell limp. How is it possible? How can you be a fool? His eyes were dull, and he murmured repeatedly. Then Flender suddenly straightened his body, reached out and grabbed Tang Ge's shoulder, and said full of expectation, Tang Ge, you must be lying to me, right? How can a child born of a close relative be a fool? Moreover, I have never heard of such a thing. Tang Ge, did you say this to comfort me? The dean, who didn't mean it, obviously hoped that what I said was the truth, but he still acted like he didn't believe it. Seeing Flender like this, Tang Ge couldn't help secretly slandering him. But on the surface, he said with a calm face, which family would foolishly spread this kind of family scandal? Dean, it doesn't matter if you don't believe that close relatives get married and give birth to idiots, you don't need to believe it. Meeting Dean Erlong this time may be another chance given to you by heaven, but the chance is fleeting. If you grab it, grab it. If you can't catch it, it's useless to regret it later. I, Tang Ge, as your student, really don't want to see you in such a miserable state. Compared to the master, I really hope that you can be with Dean Erlong more. These sincere words touched Flender's heart incomparably. He looked at Tang Ge, and said with a gratified expression, the only thing I'm lucky about in my life, Flender, is that I had the cheek to trick you into Shrek Academy. What does it mean to be tricked into the academy? Obviously, I joined on my own initiative. Snort. Am I, Tang Ge, such an easy-to-deceive person? Hearing Flender's words, Tang Ge couldn't help but rolled his eyes. But then he smiled and said, if you say that, is the dean going to continue making moves? If given the chance, who would give up the woman he loves? Looking at the two figures hugging each other in the woods ahead, Flender smiled wryly and shook his head. One is his friend for many years, and the other is his beloved woman. No matter which one is hurt, it is not what Flender wants to see. But if close relatives marry really make fools. Flender couldn't help thinking of an extremely miserable scene in the future. No. Such a thing must not be allowed to happen. Thinking of this, Flender's originally hesitant face suddenly became firm. Seeing this, Tang Ge said with a smile, if the dean wants to understand, then continue to act bravely. I believe that as long as you have the strength, Dean, you will definitely be able to catch up with Dean Erlong. Hearing Tang Ge's words, Flender nodded heavily. Xiao Ge, you're right, God finally gave me another chance, I absolutely can't just miss it. And even if it's not for myself, I can't let such a tragedy happen, and I don't want to see Erlong Mei continue to live in pain. If Xiaogang wants to blame, just blame me, I'm doing this for his and Erlong Mei's sake. Flender, have a clear conscience. End of this chapter. Period. Chapter 171. I can't cure your poison. Seeing that Flender finally figured it out, Tang Ge was very relieved, and it was finally not in vain for his rhetoric just now. In order to further enhance the other party's self-confidence, he agreed very much. Yes, Dean, you must firmly believe that you have a clear conscience. All you have done is for the good of Master and Dean Erlong. If you let them continue to be together, it will be a human tragedy. Not only that, Dean, you also need to take this opportunity to tell them about the knowledge of close relatives marrying fools. It is best to say it inadvertently. If you add in the Dean's constant kindness to Dean Erlong, I believe that even if Dean Erlong is hard-hearted, he will be slowly melted by your unswerving feelings. Come on, the students will always silently support the Dean behind. Okay, I will definitely not let you down. I must catch up with Sister Erlong. I don't believe it, I can't compare with a great soul master. Hearing Tang Ge's words, Flender's self-confidence was completely bursting, and he no longer cared about the relationship between him and Yu Xiaogang. After all, compared with a happy life in the future, friends are nothing. What's more, he did it for the good of his friend, saving his life. How could he ignore it? And after he had figured it out thoroughly, looking at Yu Xiaogang and Liu Erlong hugging each other in the woods ahead, Flender suddenly felt that his girlfriend was being taken advantage of. He couldn't help snorting. The golden iron triangles reunited again. How can I miss my four-eyed owl Flender? Tang Ge, you go back first." After saying that, Flender jumped directly from the tree, and a pair of wings condensed behind him, leading him directly to the small forest in front of him. Even if the distance of 7 or 8 meters is gone, it will only take a few seconds, but Flender still wants to fly over, obviously pretending forced. Tang Ge was a little funny, but very relieved. He looked at Yu Xiaogang and Liu Erlong, who were separated in panic because of Flender's sudden arrival, and couldn't help muttering to himself, "Dean, I've said everything I need to say, and I'll do my best to help you with what I can do. You can only rely on yourself for the rest, call." Suddenly, a gust of wind suddenly blew through in the silent night, and the surrounding temperature dropped a lot. A black shadow came quickly from a distance, and appeared in front of Tang Ge in the blink of an eye. It was none other than Du Gubo. His arrival was silent, and did not disturb the three Flanders in the distance. "You finally came." After returning to his thoughts, Tang Ge looked at Du Gubo, who had suddenly arrived, and immediately smiled and spoke. Du Gubo originally wanted to knock Tang Ge unconscious, but when he heard the other party's words, he couldn't help frowning, and said, "Little guy, how do you know that the old man will come?" "My guess," Tang Ge said. "Guess what?" Du Gubo's momentum stagnated, and then he snorted suddenly. "Boy, let's go with the old man." After finishing speaking, regardless of whether Tang Ge agreed or not, he directly reached out and grabbed the other party's collar, and left here quickly with the other party in hand. The big tree shook violently, and the rustling sound from the leaves could be clearly heard in the silent night. 7 or 8 meters away, Flender, who was brazenly stepping between Yu Xiaogang and Liu Erlong, heard the rustling of leaves, and couldn't help turning his head to take a look. Then his face suddenly changed, and he rushed over without thinking. But unfortunately, when Flender returned to the big tree that was hidden just now, Tang Ge was no longer seen. At this time, Liu Erlong and Yu Xiaogang also chased after him. "Boss F, what happened?" among them, Liu Erlong asked suspiciously. Flender said with a gloomy expression, "Tang Ge was taken away. If I'm not mistaken, the person who shot must be poisoned Douluo or Du Gubo. No, you guys go back first, I will never let him hurt my students." After speaking, he felt a fluctuation of soul power left in the air, immediately summoned his wings, chose a direction and quickly chased after him. Seeing this, Liu Erlong wanted to follow. But Yu Xiaogang at the side suddenly reached out and grabbed her arm. "Second dragon, if Poison Douluo is really attacking, if we rush after him rashly, we may not be able to save anyone, but will put ourselves in danger instead. And at such a late day, why did that boy Tang Ge appear here? Did he come with Flender, or did the two of them secretly follow us?" Speaking of this, Yu Xiaogang's face sank like water, and an ugly look flashed in his eyes. He could clearly sense that Flender's attitude towards Liu Erlong, who had quit by himself, had changed again. The other party didn't seem to intend to let go easily. Of course, the reason why Yu Xiaogang said these words was also out of rational consideration. He's always been like that. But when Liu Erlong heard Yu Xiaogang's words, he couldn't help showing a look of disappointment on his slightly anxious face. She never expected that Xiaogang, whom she always misses and loves, would be so irresponsible in the face of the college student's accident. What about title Douluo? Boss Fu can do everything for the students, but Yu Xiaogang can do it? As for why Flender and Tang Ge appeared in the woods, Liu Erlong was not in the mood to care at all. She looked at Yu Xiaogang, and said calmly, "If it was your apprentice Xiaozhen who was taken away, would you still say that? Xiaogang, if you don't want to go, I won't force you, but I will never let Boss Fu face the danger alone." Two dragons, Yu Xiaogang wanted to explain something, but the words got out of his mouth, and Liu Erlong turned into a black shadow and chased after Flender in the direction he left. Am I doing something wrong? Yu Xiaogang, who stayed on the spot, was in a trance, and what Liu Erlong said just now came to mind. In the end, he sighed suddenly, and chose to follow after him. Sunset Forest, deep. In an unknown valley, with a plop, a figure suddenly fell from midair. The huge impact force hit the ground, and cracks like spider webs were smashed out immediately. But in the middle pit, the figure that just fell down jumped out of it without incident. This person is Tang Ge. He patted the dust off his body, looked up at Du Gubo floating in the air, and said with a speechless expression, "Senior Du Gubo, did you work so hard to bring me here just to kill me? Where did you get so much nonsense, kid? How do you get rid of the toxins on me and my granddaughter? No one here can save you this time. If you can't say it, don't blame the old man for being cruel." Hearing Tang Ge's words, Douluo snorted coldly. Behind him, the jade phosphorus snake emperor slowly emerged, spitting out scarlet snake letters. Faced with this, Tang Ge was not only not afraid, but laughed outright. As if joking, he said to Douluo Babo, "Senior Douluo, I really disappointed you. I can't cure your poison, ask for a monthly pass." End of this chapter. Period. Chapter 172. Douluo's shame solve, can solve it? The reason why Douluo lowered his posture to bring Tang Ge here tonight was not because the other party told him about the poisoning of him and his granddaughter. But now, the person brought it, but the other party said that he could not cure the poison on himself and his granddaughter. After Douluo came back to his senses, his original extremely gloomy face suddenly became ugly. When he was furious, his beard and hair fluttered, and his voice was full of killing intent. "Boy, do you really think the old man dare not kill you? For title Douluo, just exuding killing intent is not something a low-level soul master can bear." The terrifying airwave rushed towards Tang Ge, like an invisible sickle, cutting off all the flowers and plants in its path. Tang Ge's whole body was bombarded, and he retreated uncontrollably. His feet forcibly drew a deep mark on the ground. But seeing this situation, Douluo directly frowned. Because under the impact of his killing intent, a mere child of 12 or 30 was not injured. Even the other party didn't even use their martial soul and soul skills from the beginning to the end. This made Douluo feel even worse hateful. "I don't believe that I can't even take care of a child today with the title Douluo." Because of Tang Ge's identity, Douluo couldn't kill him. But it's always okay to be half dead. Thinking of this, looking at Tang Ge with a proud face, he couldn't help snorting, and as he waved his hands, thick green poisonous mist spewed out from the mouth of the jade phosphorus snake emperor behind him. Sizzle sizzle. Where the poisonous mist passed, the flowers and plants that had been cut off by the middle instantly melted like ice meeting fire. In the end, patches of corroded jet black traces were left on the ground. Tang Ge, who was more than 10 meters away, couldn't help being shocked when he saw so much thick green poisonous mist rushing towards him. The old poison seemed to be really angry, and he used poison directly on himself. A junior, very scary. But why do I feel so excited? Thinking wildly in his heart, Tang Ge had already summoned the map of the mountains and rivers. Immediately below his feet, with a glaring black light shining, black soul rings emerged one after another. The 5 black or 10,000-year soul rings began to move up and down around Tang Ge's body, instantly increasing his aura infinitely. The impact of this aura blocked the thick green poisonous mist that was slowly filling up. Seeing this scene, Douluo, who stepped on the head of the jade phosphorus snake emperor and floated in the air, was shocked even as a title Douluo. 5 10,000-year spirit rings? Level? ? He couldn't help staring at Tang Ge, and said in surprise, "Little guy, how old are you this year?" "Hey, I'm 12 years old this year, and I'm only a soul king. If you didn't force me so much, senior, I would be ashamed to show my soul ring." Hearing Douluo's question, Tang Ge couldn't help but sighed. Having said that, he almost couldn't help but burst out laughing. Title Douluo is indeed a title Douluo. This shock was a shock value of, points, which directly made Tang Ge's shock value break through the, mark, approaching, points. And this is just the beginning. Thinking of this, Tang Ge didn't hesitate, and used his mountain and river domain with a wave of his hand again. As soon as the mountains and rivers field is out, the area within a radius of, meters from the sky to the earth is under control. Tang Ge clearly felt the enhancement of his soul power and the suppression of all enemies in the field. On the opposite side, in mid-air, Douluo twitched his face when he heard Tang Ge's words just now. At the age of 12, the cultivation base of the Soul King. Listen. Is this what people say? Thinking that I, the dignified title Douluo, seemed to be at the level of a soul master when I was 12 years old, let alone have 5 10,000-year soul rings. But, didn't the kid in front of him say that his father was that person? Why does his martial spirit look like a picture scroll? As soon as he thought of this, Douluo, who was about to explore further, felt the invisible suppression of the soul power in his body as a breeze blew past his face. Even the surrounding space became thickened, and the jade phosphorus snake emperor, the martial soul, let out a restless hissing sound. After Douluo realized something, he seemed to have thought of something, and couldn't help but gasped again. His eyes almost popped out because of shock. Looking at Tang Ge on the opposite side below, Unbelievable foul words blurted out directly from his mouth. This fucking domain, ding dong, congratulations to the host, shocked Douluo, and gained, shock points. The system prompt sounded in Tang Ge's mind again. It was actually, points more than last time. It seems that the old poison was really shocked this time. Tang Ge frowned, and a satisfied smile appeared in his eyes. Immediately, he looked up at Douluo, and imitated him by putting his hands behind his back, and said with a calm expression, "Come on, let this junior see if Senior Douluo's poison is as powerful as the legend." Douluo's heart was beating violently in plop and plop, and at this moment he completely lost the disdainful attitude he had when facing a child at the beginning. On the contrary, as Tang Ge showed his strength, he began to feel a little bit of pressure. A boy who is only 12 years old has already raised his soul power to the realm of the Soul King, and he is also an all-black 10,000-a-year lineup that is unprecedented on the mainland. What is even more frightening is that the other party has even mastered the domain. What is a domain? It is something that even the title Douluo envies. There are only a handful of soul masters with domains on the entire continent. Douluo is unimaginable. Just how evil is this little guy in front of him, to be so pissed that even title Douluo is envious of him? To be able to withstand the terrifying pressure brought by the 5 10,000-year spirit rings, how abnormal should his physical strength be? I can't think about it anymore. Douluo felt that if he continued to think about it, his veins of jealousy would burst, and he would feel ashamed and want to find a hole to get in. But at this moment, when he heard Tang Ge's provocation, instead of the initial anger, he felt more appreciation and anticipation. After taking a deep breath to calm down the fluctuating mood, Douluo looked at Tang Ge and nodded. "Little guy, as you wish." After saying that, as he continued to stimulate the surging soul power in his body, the martial soul jade phosphorus snake emperor under his feet immediately showed the majesty of the emperor of poison. A stream of poisonous mist that was more intense and tyrannical than before was spewed out, directly condensing into a tide of poisonous mist, rushing towards Tang Ge surgingly. The sound of squeaking tides sounded in the space. Seeing this scene, Tang Ge did not hesitate at all. With the assistance of the Shan domain, he immediately urged his own cultivation method with all his strength. The furnace of hell emerged within his body, and as soon as the lid was opened, the terrifying devouring power was released from it. In the raging wind, Tang Ge's whole body was completely submerged by the tide of poisonous mist. In just a blink of an eye, end of this chapter. Chapter 173 Golden Holy Dragon vs Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor. If anyone in this world is not afraid of Douluo's poison, Tang Ge dares to say that there is no one else except him. Not even Tang San. Because facing Douluo's poison, Tang San could only undo it, while Tang Ge directly chose to devour it. With the existence of the ancient holy body, even if he has just awakened, its characteristics can already prevent him from being affected by all the poisons on the Douluo Continent. Once the holy blood is swiped, all negative states can be swiped away. What's more, Tang Ge also has the hell melting pot cultivation method that swallows everything. For him, the poisonous mist that comes continuously is the energy purified by the title Douluo. Faced with this kind of training resources delivered to his door, how could Tang Ge give up such a good opportunity? Being in the thick tide of poisonous mist, he simply closed his eyes, and began to concentrate on using the streams of poisonous mist from the continuous refinement of the hell furnace to improve his soul power. Anyway, there are mountains and rivers covering a radius of, meters. Tang Ge is not worried at all that the old poison will suddenly attack him at this time. In fact, Douluo, who was floating in the air more than 10 meters away, had no intention of taking this opportunity to attack Tang Ge. And maybe it was because of being shocked one after another before. He was completely exhausted at the moment, and when he looked at Tang Ge, who was shrouded in his own poisonous mist but was at peace, he was full of powerlessness and self-doubt. Is it rare that I am a fake titled poison Douluo? But Douluo clearly saw that the flowers and plants surrounding Tang Ge had already been reduced to ashes under the poisonous mist of his jade phosphorus snake emperor. Not even a breath of life remained. This comforted Douluo's heart a little. It can be seen that it's not that his title Douluo's poison is too rubbish, but that he met a little guy who is even more inhuman today. However, I want to see how long you can last. After putting away his wild thoughts, Douluo looked at Tang Ge, who was shrouded in his own poisonous mist, and after a low murmur, he waited quietly. In this way, time passed slowly. During this period, Tang Ge directly raised his soul power from level 53 to level 54 with the help of the dense poisonous mist that was constantly being devoured and refined. After enjoying the sweetness, he worked harder and started refining. Although Douluo didn't know the changes in Tang Ge's soul power, he could feel that the poisonous mist he released had a tendency to be powerless. This surprised him a little, and he had to intensify the poisonous mist released by the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor again. Seeing that the brat was once again shrouded in poisonous mist, Douluo showed a satisfied smile on his face, and was about to fall to the ground to rest for a while. After all, maintaining flight always consumes a lot of soul power. What made Douluo frown was that at this time, accompanied by the sound of messy footsteps, 3 figures suddenly came galloping from a distance. These 3 figures were Flender, Liu Erlong and Yu Xiaogang, who were chasing after with the remaining soul power. When he saw Tang Ge in front of him covered in thick green poisonous mist, Flender's eyes suddenly turned red, and he rushed forward recklessly as if he had lost his mind. But before he got close to Douluo, he was directly thrown away by Douluo with his surging soul power. Boss F, surprised, Liu Erlong jumped up and hugged Flender, who was in midair, into his arms. The 2 of them retreated a distance of 7 or 8 meters before stopping. A trace of blood oozed from the corner of Flender's mouth. Yu Xiaogang's expression also changed. He had no choice but to bow to Douluo, and said in a deep voice, "Senior Douluo, Tang Ge is a student of the junior, please let him go a lot. After all, this child is only in his teens. You are a titled Douluo, so you won't be angry with a child, right?" "I'm just angry with a child, what can you do to me?" Hearing Yu Xiaogang's words, Douluo sneered suddenly, pointed at Tang Ge behind him who was shrouded in thick green poisonous mist, and spoke. "What's more, do you think a child in his teens can come out alive under the poisonous mist of my majestic title Douluo? Maybe he has already been poisoned to death by my poisonous mist and turned into a shell." "Poisonous mist? Turned into a shell?" Not far away, Flender, who just broke free from Liu Erlong's arms, staggered, feeling as if his heart was broken, and almost collapsed on the ground. Fortunately, Liu Erlong quickly reached out to support him. But Flender's pale face had become very desperate. He never thought that such a thing would happen just after he brought Tang Ge to the Heaven Dao Imperial City. In his ears, the words that the little guy said before were still vaguely echoing. "Dean, are you willing? Dean, act bravely. I believe that the Dean will be able to catch up with Dean Erlong, come on. The students will always silently support the Dean behind." "Little guy, you haven't watched the Dean chase your Dean Erlong, how could something happen to you? The Dean still wants to watch you become a titled Douluo. How can something happen to you?" Gradually, 2 tears flowed from the corners of Flender's eyes. A cold dread air began to release from him. Liu Erlong noticed this situation, fearing that Flender would do something stupid. He hurriedly urged Yu Xiaogang, "Xiaogang, what nonsense are you talking to this old poisonous thing? To form a Trinity Fusion formation, I, Liu Erlong, want to see how powerful title Douluo is today." "Boss Fu, don't be impulsive, Tang Ge's little guy is blessed and lucky, and he will definitely not just disappear like this, so let's stand up first and then talk." As she spoke, she let go of her hand and walked to a position a few meters away from Flender. When Yu Xiaogang heard Liu Erlong's urging, he took a few steps back and stood in the middle between the 2 of them, directly forming a formation of 3 talents. As if he had listened to Liu Erlong's words, Flender's originally dull eyes gradually regained some focus. With the 3 of them in place, he did not release his martial soul, but gave a loud shout. "Sun and moon brilliant golden turn, hum." Immediately, a dazzling golden light appeared from Flender's body, rising directly into the sky and turning into a golden beam of light. The same golden beam of light also appeared on Liu Erlong and Yu Xiaogang's bodies. When the last 3 people were connected by the golden circle of light on the ground, Yu Xiaogang, who seemed to be the main player, immediately summoned his Wuhan Luo Sanpao. As soon as Luo Sanpao came out, it landed on the middle light array. Immediately afterwards, a total of 16 halos flew out from Yu Xiaogang and the 3 of them, and merged into Luo Sanpao's body one after another, causing Luo Sanpao's originally lovely face to be filled with pain. Wait till the end. The strength seemed to have reached its peak, and a dragon roar suddenly came out of Luo Sanpao's mouth. As it soared into the sky and released a dazzling golden light curtain, it turned directly into a golden holy dragon more than 20 meters long and covered with the golden scales all over its body. End of this chapter. Chapter 174 I forgive you, no way. As soon as the golden holy dragon came out, it made a sky-shattering dragon roar, and its powerful momentum turned into a wave of air and rushed directly in all directions. The pitch-black night was instantly dyed golden. Not to mention that the soul beasts in the sunset forest were trembling with fright. Douluo, who didn't care at first, couldn't help frowning when he saw this scene. As a titled Douluo, he had naturally heard of the spirit fusion technique, the most famous of which was the two-pole static domain used by Chrysanthemum Douluo and Ghost Douluo, who belonged to the Spirit Hall. But this is the first time Douluo has seen this Trinity fusion skill before him, and what he summoned is actually a golden dragon. And this golden dragon seems to look very much like the most powerful sacred dragon in the dragon clan, otherwise he wouldn't have felt the slightest bit of pressure. For a moment, Douluo looked at the three of Flender who were in the golden beam of light. His eyes were full of amazement. I have to say that you two soul sages and one great soul master can use such a powerful fusion technique, even this old man has to admire. But do you think that you can act recklessly under the hands of the old man? As soon as the words fell, a terrifying aura belonging to his title Douluo finally no longer concealed, and was completely released from him. At the same time, under his feet, 9 spirit rings, 2 yellow, 2 purple and 5 black, rose up one after another, directly surrounding his body in constant rhythm. The powerful wave of soul power impacted outwards, immediately suppressing the golden light spreading to the side. In the end, Douluo fused with his own martial soul, the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor, and used his martial soul a real body. The whole person stood on the head of the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor, and as his body was propped up, he got higher and higher from the ground. In the blink of an eye, the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor surpassed the Golden Holy Dragon in length, reaching more than, meters. A thick green poisonous mist floats around it. In the sky, the Golden Holy Dragon transformed by Luo Sanpao just now seemed to feel the threat. Without hesitation, he opened his mouth suddenly and spit out a golden lightning towards Douluo. The void was split into ripples. But facing this golden lightning, Douluo didn't dodge or dodge, directly controlling the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor to go head-on and collide with it fiercely. Boom! Accompanied by a deafening bang, the golden lightning was instantly crushed by the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor. And the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor only froze for a moment before recovering quickly, and then opened his mouth to inhale and spit out. A thick green beam of light completely condensed by the poisonous mist was spit out directly. Facing the rushing beam of poisonous mist, Uzaya Gang, who was behind, frowned, and immediately controlled the Golden Holy Dragon to whip up a strong wind to deflect it and fly past him. And the Golden Holy Dragon, with the help of its tyrannical body and the domineering attributes of thunder and fire, directly and quickly approached the Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor, and began to fight with him. Just over time, Douluo was actually depressed to find that his Jade Phosphorus Snake Emperor was suppressed, and even the soul bone skill Medusa's gaze he used was also blocked. But if it weren't for the fear of hurting the little guy behind, and the unwillingness to destroy the environment here, as a titled Douluo, how could Douluo end up in such a passive situation? It's just that when he thought this way, he didn't know that Tang Ge, who was practicing in the poisonous mist behind him, actually woke up when the two sides fought. Although the hell smelting in the body is still running to devour the poisonous mist to improve the soul power, it does not affect Tang Ge's attention to the outside world with the help of the mountains and rivers field. He was really amazed when he saw Dean Flender's trio use the Trinity Fusion technique to summon the Golden Holy Dragon, and also buff the dignified titled Poison Douluo. This combat power is already very good. But it's a pity, no matter how powerful the Golden Iron Triangle's fusion skills are, they are still no match for titled Douluo. The rest is the same as in the original plot. Furious, Douluo finally stopped being restrained, and after using the 8th soul ability Time Freeze, he used the snake pill to directly destroy the special skill Ascending Dragon Truth of the Three of Flanders. So far, the Trinity Fusion technology of the Golden Iron Triangle is officially broken. Seeing that another bitter scene of who stays and who goes away is about to be staged, Tang Ge's practice has finally come to the end. With the last shock of the furnace of hell, the poisonous mist covering his body was instantly swallowed up. The soul power in Tang Ge's body surged again, almost breaking through the level 54 barrier. After taking a deep breath to suppress the regret in his heart, he stopped the hell furnace while putting away the mountain and river domain. As soon as the field was put away, Douluo in front of him noticed it. When he turned his head and saw Tang Ge showing his figure, He couldn't help frowning, and said, "Huh? You kid actually swallowed all the poison I released. Thank you, Senior Douluo, for your success. This junior's soul power has been raised by another level," Tang Ge thanked with a smile. Hearing this, Douluo couldn't help but twitch his face, and his mood, which happened to be a lot, suddenly became depressed again. After working together for a long time, he didn't get what he got and even got into a fight, but the little guy got all the benefits same time. The three of Yuziagang who were 7 or 8 meters away also saw Tang Ge's figure, and couldn't help being startled. Especially after Flender came back to his senses, the originally dead gray eyes suddenly burst into light, and he couldn't help but excitedly said, "Ziojet, are you still alive? Dean, what are you talking about? Is Tang Ge going to die so easily?" Tang Ge couldn't help rolling his eyes when he heard Flender's words. Then, without waiting for the other party to ask questions, he pointed at Douluo, and explained with a smile, "Senior Douluo brought me here suddenly this time. In fact, he was guiding me to cultivate, and he didn't intend to harm me. And thanks to Senior Douluo, my soul power has increased by another level in this short period of time, so you don't have to worry, Dean." Another level up? Liu Erlong might not be aware of Tang Ge's strength, but both Yu Xiagang and Flender knew that this kid was already a soul king. Now they have been promoted to another level in a short period of time, which really surprised them. So could it be that he really misunderstood Senior Douluo? After the surprise, Flender took the initiative to take a step forward, saluted Douluo, and said apologetically, "Senior Douluo, I didn't expect you to be so well-intentioned and spend the night to teach Tang Ge's cultivation, but we misunderstood you and almost made a big mistake. Senior, please forgive our rudeness just now." This apology was full of sincerity, but after hearing this, Douluo not only didn't feel half comfortable, but his heart became more and more depressed. He felt like he was about to be suffocated to death by himself. Muz. How could I arrest that kid to teach him how to practice? Is my brain cramped? After scolding fiercely in his heart, Douluo's complexion suddenly darkened, his cold eyes swept across the three of Flender, and he sneered suddenly. "So? You think that's how I can easily forgive you? Ask for a monthly pass." End of this chapter. Period. Chapter 175. The confused Tang San. As soon as Douluo said these words, the originally relaxed atmosphere suddenly became tense again. Liu Erlong, who had a fiery temper, couldn't bear it any longer, and said loudly, "It was Senior Douluo who took our students away without saying a word. If not, how could we have clashed with you? Moreover, Boss Fu has already sincerely apologized to you, Senior. Is it possible that you have such a small stomach because you are a dignified titled Douluo? If you really don't want to let go, the three of us won't be afraid of you either. Even if we die in your hands, the family behind us will avenge us." Her words were extremely strong and domineering, which formed a strong contrast with her always weak appearance before. But seeing Flender, he felt very relieved. This is the Erlong Mei in his memory. As for Douluo's face immediately became more and more gloomy after listening to it. Having said this, if he let the three of them go easily, where would he put his majestic title Douluo's face? What is belly volume? Can it be compared with face? Just at this moment, Tang Ge from behind suddenly walked to Douluo's side. He looked at Douluo who was about to strike, and said in a low voice, "Senior, don't you want to cure the poison on you and your granddaughter?" As soon as these words came out, Douluo, who was already in a rage, almost went berserk. He immediately stared at Tang Ge viciously, gritted his teeth and said, "You kids still have the guts to say that? Who the hell can't figure it out? Do you really think the old man is a fool?" A mouthful of spittle was sprayed out, which immediately sprayed Tang Ge's face. Tang Ge could hide, but he didn't, otherwise the other party would eat him in anger. And after all, this is his problem first, let the senior find an outlet. Seeming to have noticed this too, a look of unnaturalness flashed across Douluo's gloomy face. Immediately, the other party's behavior of not dodging made him feel better in a bad mood. Looking at Tang Ge, Douluo couldn't help snorting. "What on earth do you want to say? Hurry up and tell me. If you dare to lie to me, I will slap you to death." "Actually, I want to say that although I can't cure you and your granddaughter, my classmate can. Why don't you let the dean and the others go back, and send my classmates here? By the way, this time I really didn't lie to you, Senior," Tang Ge said very sincerely. But Douluo still had some doubts, and said, "You really didn't lie to me, kid. Whoever lied to you is a puppy. And my classmate is Tang San, who is a master poison user. If you don't believe me, you can ask the principal and they will know. Even saying that he is a puppy, Douluo felt that the boy in front of him could still be rescued. So he nodded. Okay, trust you kid again. After finishing speaking, Douluo stopped talking to Tang Ge, and turned his attention to the three of Flanders again. Because the conversation between him and Tang Ge was in a low voice, the three of them didn't hear it. Seeing Douluo look over at this moment, Liu Erlong immediately said impatiently, Senior, if you want to kill or let go, give me a quick word. Douluo twitched his face, suppressed his anger, and said, let's all go. I'm too lazy to care about you juniors. Huh? Let us go now. Did you hear me right? Liu Erlong, who was waiting to make a move, couldn't help showing a hint of surprise on his face. But when she couldn't help but want to ask the reason, Flender on the side hurriedly spoke first. Thank you, Senior Douluo, for your understanding. I wonder if we can take Tang Ge away. Dean, you guys go first. The environment here is good for Senior Douluo. I plan to stay here to practice for a while. This time, before Douluo could speak, Tang Ge walked out on his own initiative. He looked at Flender and continued with a smile, because of some other matters, please send the third party here after you go back, Dean. It just so happened that Senior Douluo said that he was free recently and was going to give me insights and some advice, right, Senior Douluo? After finishing speaking, Tang Ge looked at Douluo. Douluo nodded calmly. This kid is right. The old man has been busy recently, and I just want to ask some juniors to give me advice. It was so. After listening to Tang Ge and Douluo's words, Flender could not help but breathe a sigh of relief. Then he seemed to think of something, and suddenly looked at Douluo expectantly. Senior Douluo, since you are free, besides the junior, there are several talented little guys in my academy. How about I send them all here? Cough cough cough. Tang Ge never expected that Dean Flender would say such words suddenly, and accidentally choked on his own saliva, and immediately began to cough violently. Douluo even blew his beard and stared in anger. Roll! A loud shout came out of his mouth suddenly. This time Flender and Liu Erlong didn't dare to hesitate any longer. They immediately turned around and left here quickly. It wasn't until they returned to the academy that the three of them stopped. Go back and rest first. I'll go find Tang San. Flender did not forget Douluo's words, and said to Liu Erlong and Yu Xiaogang. Liu Erlong had no objection, but Yu Xiaogang frowned directly. He couldn't help but said, as a title Douluo, Douluo has no reason with our Shrek Academy. Why is he suddenly in the mood to give advice to Tang Ge? Now Tang San is called by name again. Don't you think there's a problem with this? Compared with the safety of his disciples, Yu Xiaogang had to treat it with caution. But after hearing this, Flender was very dissatisfied and said, Xiaogang, are you doubting Tang Ge's words? Besides, since you know that Senior Douluo is a title Douluo, then if you think a title Douluo really wants to harm Xiao-san, can the three of us stop it? Boss Fu is right, Xiaogang, you are worrying too much. Liu Erlong also agreed. Seeing Liu Erlong speak for Flender again, Yu Xiaogang felt very uncomfortable. But he still insisted, no matter what, this matter still has to be decided by Xiao-san. Okay, you two wait here for a while, I'll bring that little guy Tang San over right now. After finishing speaking, Liu Erlong left immediately. Only Flender and Yu Xiaogang were left in place, and the atmosphere seemed a little silent. But not long after, a figure came galloping from a distance. It was Liu Erlong who had left before. Tang San was also directly lifted by her, and when he was placed on the ground, he still looked confused. After all, when someone is practicing in the room, if someone suddenly breaks in and jumps out of the window with his collar in hand, the souls of who am I, where am I and what am I doing will appear in my mind ask 3 times. And it was a charming woman who did this. Snapped. Hey, wake up, little guy, suddenly. Accompanied by heavy pats on the shoulders and impatient urging sounds, Tang San, who was still in a daze, staggered, and finally came back to his senses. When he saw that Dean Flender and Grandmaster were here, he couldn't help but asked, Dean, teacher, did something serious happen? Ask for a monthly pass. End of this chapter. End of this chapter. Thank you so much for reading until the end. Don't forget to give it a like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription or donation encourages us to continue. Thank you all. See you in the next video.